Like, okay. What is shaking, everybody? We are in the backyard for episode number. Fuck if I know. I don't know what episode it is. We just do them and put them up there. You can go to the YouTube page and check out the videos, check out the live streams, the past live streams. All the stuff we have is on YouTube. When's the last time I said like, subscribe? Like 3 weeks ago. I should probably fit that in occasionally. Just, I mean, if you want to, but if you don't, whatever. Keep on keeping on. In the backyard with my good friend Tim Kawakami of The Standard. Tim, thank you very much for coming on over. Appreciate it.
Or dislike and unsubscribe. You can
do whatever you want. Well, that's you. That's definitely you.
I've never said that. I should say that. And I've never said, hey, like or subscribe. I know you should. You're supposed to.
Yep.
You got some microphone jiggling here going on. But
we got Lou. we got animals. Tim has been indoctrinated into the Church of Lou, and everybody that walks in goes, "Oh yeah, I love animals." Yep. And then about 10 minutes later, like, "Okay,
that's enough.
That's a little much. I don't want to drown."
There are lines here.
And
there
Lou,
are lines.
Lou is gonna drown.
It's all good.
Lou almost drowned Ratto.
Yeah.
I mean, she almost drowned him. She licked him enough to where I thought, like we're gonna have to give Ray CPR here. Like Lou's knocking over cameras,
attacking the production,
messing up wires. Look at Lou. And then we got the bunny around here somewhere. The kitties may show up occasionally. So on that subject of unsubscribe and dislike, who has more blocks, you or Akeem?
I think at this point I gotta have more because I just keep going and going.
Yeah,
you're probably right.
A while. Lulu.
So
there she goes. Lulu, come here.
If you just sit there, you're just fine. I don't want you.
She won't though. She's not gonna just sit there, Tim.
Okay.
Come over here. Come here. Up on my.
We need Ratto over here just to stand over the corner and have that Lulu attack Ratto while he stands
well,
there.
The funny part is I'll have people come over, and I had Steve come over, and this is years and years ago. He came over to watch a football game. I love dogs. I love dogs. And he sat on the couch, and Lulu mauled him for a straight hour, like an hour, and to the point where he had a pillow and he was just holding it up over his head. I don't even know if he could see the game we were watching. So I was like, okay, let me put Lulu
relentless.
And she's 9. She's a shark.
Yeah.
She just does not.
She's like a Houston Rockets wing, just like relentless.
Exactly.
It never stops.
She's long. She gets after exactly. She can't shoot.
No. That's what she cannot shoot. Thompson.
But she hits the boards and she gets after
never stops.
Gets after
Whistle blows, keeps going. Just keeps going.
On defense. But no, it's funny because you're the one person on Twitter that I follow, and I don't follow a ton of people, but the one person that actively says, "Look, stop reading me. I don't want you to read me. Just leave me alone." Everyone else is just like, please read me. Please look at my stuff. Please like, please subscribe. Please do this. You're like, please go away. Just leave me alone.
That is an interesting little world I've found. I didn't do it on purpose, but it's like I found social media. Obviously, we're all on social media.
Yep.
I'm active on it. Yet you have these people who seek you out and try to, they're bad faith operators or whatever in sports. And that's part of it. It's like, I could kind of see this political world come in because I could feel it in sports. It was just like, if you don't believe in what I believe in, you're the idiot. Everything you say is stupid. And it's like, I hated that.
Yeah.
And I don't want these people reading me. And so I just could see this. They're used to journalists. It's my people who are desperate to get every single click possible. I'm lucky enough that I've never had that problem. The Mercury News, they were always like, it's weird though, Tim, but like a lot of people read you. It's like, should you be operating like that, or should you be saying it's great that people want to read you? No, they're like, it's got this weird thing that people are reading. Yeah, I don't know why.
Isn't that way you hire me?
Like we got to change that. We can't have people reading you.
Yeah, exactly. What are we doing?
No, literally, I had someone pull me aside, like, we're not sure about everyone reading you here, Tim.
What?
Because I was writing about Kobe. I was writing about guys from LA. I think there was some like suspicion of that, but I have this thing. I don't know. I'm not bragging about it. Just I tend to write about things people care about.
Yeah.
And sometimes I write about them in a way that people react to, very one way or the other. And on social media, you get the flood of the negative. It's like, you know what? Don't read me that. Like, I'm never like, I learned that early, like from email. I get email from readers, and I'd send them an answer, and maybe I'd be a little snotty or whatever, and they just post it on a fan site or something.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? Everything I do, just because of my position, could be seen. could just sit there. There you go. Could be like put out there in public.
Yeah.
So would I learn that on social media? Like, people know that I'm aggressive or whatever. I do what I do, but you can't ever get me on something I did wrong.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at it, I'm responding to that person.
Yeah.
I'm not saying a swear word.
Yeah.
I'm not defaming anybody. I'm responding to you being a jerk to me.
Yeah.
And so I always thought it this way, and someone told me this: everything you do on social media or an email can be used against you in a court of law. Think of it that way. So if you see that thing up there in a deposition and they're asking you to answer for it, you can be okay with it.
Yeah.
And if you want to look through it, and you're like this, like if you respond to somebody, it's not in a way that gets into the inflaming this argument. It's just like, okay, don't read me.
Yeah.
You can't get in trouble by saying that.
Yeah.
You can say, I think you're stupid. This is the worst thing. No, that just continues these weird, elliptical, impossible arguments. So I just say, you're taking this wrong. Don't read me.
Yeah.
It's pretty empowering at some point. Like, and maybe you can't do it most of the time. I can. People still end up reading me. And it's like, the way I say it's like, I don't want this list of people reading. I really don't.
Yeah.
And it makes the whole thing worse if you have these people become part of it, or you're trying to please them, or you're trying to make things where it's plausible that this discussion can go with their direction. I don't want to.
Yeah.
And there's other ways for them to go. Like in this world of social media or websites or, blogs, go read somebody else. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
So, it's been this weird media world where I know people losing jobs and sites are going down and newspapers are going down and this whole bad. I'm in a place where I don't worry about that. So I'm going to take it, at least on social media. I'm just like, don't read me. Do not read me. They're probably going to end up reading me at some point. Fine, whatever. But I don't care. And I do just fine. I've done just fine. Yeah. And so,
well, it's funny because they seek you out.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I don't really, I don't engage as much as I used to when I first started on social media. I just do it and move on. Yeah. I'm done. But I always used to tell people, like, when they ever argued or whatever, my stock reply was, whatever helps you sleep at night. Yeah. And then I'd just move on after that. Because we actually had somebody, I forget if it was when I was doing the radio show, I think, trying to tell me how good Akeem was, or how he wouldn't fit in today's game, or how it was something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I only played against him. So what would I know about what would I know about the subject matter? Don't take it from me, who actually played. And I always hated pulling that card when I was doing the radio, because I wanted that to stand alone. Like, I was a sports fan. I've always been a sports fan. And there's certain things I know that other people can't know because I've been in locker rooms and all that stuff. But I never wanted to use that. Every once in a while, I got to pull it out. Just I'm like, okay, I've had it with you.
Here's one thing.
I'm done. Yeah. I'm done. We're done. This is it. If you don't want to listen to me, fine. But at least acknowledge that I know what I'm talking about in this certain subject, this category. But it's been, social media, I think, for everybody is kind of like, it's a necessary evil to push stuff out there. But I think honestly, most people that have the right intentions probably would rather not be on it if they didn't have to be on it. Some people like to be on it because they like the clicks, they like the notoriety, they like all that. But for people that just want to talk sports, read, all that kind of stuff, I think most people, if they didn't have to, they'd be like, nah, I'm done.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. And maybe 3 or 4 years ago, before what happened to Twitter and X, I really kind of used it and I used to tell people, this is kind of how I think. I do have an active mind. So I kind of think through things at times on Twitter, on social media, or wherever I'm going to be. And you can see me work out stuff. And then if it's an idea that 5 people are trying to shout down, can I defend it?
Yeah.
Now, I don't try. It's not as good anymore to try to do that. It's just
Yeah.
it's so angry. It's
Yes.
so But at times I do it, and maybe with a, I'm trying to think of a non-crazy topic, but I went Niners Warriors, and you can't do that. There's no non-crazy topic. But like, at some point, you do want to be able to work. I like working stuff out. Like I used to say, if you want to see how I write a column, just kind of look at the 5 tweets I sent out over the last 24 hours on this topic, and I'm kind of working it out. Maybe less so now, again, because you're going to get 15 incels shouting at you. No matter who you block, you're still going to get the incels. And believe me, they're on the Warriors and 49ers fan base too.
Yeah.
A percentage. Not, and I do always have to be careful, because it's a loud percentage. It's not the whole thing. It's not even representative of a 25% of thing, but it's there. It's absolutely there. It does drive, like, some of the coverage, does drive some of what people think. And I hear it from my friends. I hear it from, like, hey, well, how come this guy gets famous and you're not? And like, well, I think I'm okay. And if you want to put your money over there, that's fine. I happen to really believe, and I think justifiably, with my last 2 places, the Athletic and the Standard, that good stuff that I think's good is rewarded. What we did at the Athletic Bay Area with Marcus and Slater and Baggerly and everyone else, we all were rewarded by that. And that was very fulfilling to me, that we put this together. I knew it would work. Marcus and I, like, this is how we do it. We talked about how we wanted to do it, and we did get rewarded. Yeah. I'm not going to say how much, but we did get rewarded. Just like rewarding because it worked, and it's going to work for a long time, the Athletic Bay Area, and rewarded because financially we were rewarded for it. And if that had not happened, maybe I'd have a little more bitter view of things, maybe, because it wasn't real thrilling when I was at the Mercury News, and they weren't really receptive to some of the things I was saying. Like, they didn't want me to even start a podcast. I think I've told that story. Like I got an offer to do something else. Like, I'm not even going to ask you for more money. Let's just do a podcast. And they're like, okay, I guess we have to. And they're like, literally, the digital editor, whatever, the person in charge of the digital there, not any good at it, said, like, I'm not sure. Like, what would you do? What would this podcast be? I said, I'd get some, major newsmakers, other people I want to talk to, and we'll do an interview conversation show. Like, it's the TK show. Yep. And the guy's like, I don't think you can do that. I'm not sure that's going to happen. In my back pocket, I knew I had Jim Harbaugh. Yeah. After the first interview he did. Yep. After he was fired. And it's like, oh yeah, you want to bet, motherfucker? So that was the frustrating newspaper thing. Yeah. But while you were there, you just had to figure out your own way. And that's what I did. I did the podcast, did the blog. Like, this was for free, essentially. Yeah. Let me do more work for you. But it was, in a way, like, let's figure out what, where the boundaries are, what the limits are, if there are any, where I want to go with this. And that's kind of what I did. This is Bud Geraci, as you know Bud really well. And he was my sports editor, great guy. And when I was leaving to go to the Athletic, I said, I've been thinking about this before. I goes, Tim, you've been thinking about this for like 5 years, right? I go, yeah, because you really haven't been working for the Mercury News for 5 years. You've been working for yourself, happened to be at the Mercury News. Yeah, yeah, kind of true. We kind of had to work out that way. Like, the world is different. The stuff that we do is different, maybe platforms, but I think the intent's always the same. That's what I always like. I told the Standard, and they were 100% on board. I'm doing the same stuff. Like, this is what we're doing. We're just going to do the same stuff. We're going to do it on a better platform, place I like more. Yeah. And that's kind of what we're trying to do, whether it's not a replica of the Athletic Bay Area, some different writers, but it's like the same idea. Like, do stuff that people will spend money for. Yeah. They don't have to spend money for the shit. Yeah. There's a lot of it out there. Go find it. It's free. Yeah. This stuff's more in depth, more reported, hopefully better written. Then you're going to put your credit card out there. And I've always felt that. And the Athletic Bay Area was really kind of the, eureka. Maybe not. It's like, this is going to work like this. And maybe not exactly always at the Athletic, clearly I've left, but that idea, make money. Yeah. With good stuff. My old theme, and people who know me well have heard it many times. This is back on the Mercury News. Here's a shocking way, I think, to make money. Put good shit on the internet.
What?
Yeah, that's it.
What?
Good shit on the internet. And I've said that
Were you high at the time?
Yeah.
Were you crazy?
And
good stuff out there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Sometimes it works. And
get out of here.
That's what we did at the Athletic Bay Area. That's what the Athletics done. And I think, that's what we're doing at the Standard, which the Standard was doing for years before me. And like, just get that stuff out there, get good stuff out there, keep doing it. If you didn't do it great the last time, do it good the next time. That's another newspapers was so much like that. Like, oh no, let's talk about what happened yesterday. Let's go over it. Oh no, the group, like, that's not me. Like, let's get to the next thing.
Yeah.
And then let's get to the next thing after that. And then one of those is going to be good. Hopefully many of them will be good. Just keep going. Now, that's when I was younger. And, at this point, it's like, hey, I can keep doing it. I don't know. I don't quite have the energy to go fly right, fly right. That gets to me. But otherwise, the energy is fine.
Yeah. Where do you want to start? Warriors, Niners?
Let's go Warriors, just because they just ended. I want to hear some of your thoughts about it, too.
Okay. I made the analogy a couple days ago. I said Jonathan Kuminga is the new Brandon Belt.
He is. I saw you ask Kerr about that. He's like, what?
Yeah. He wasn't. He didn't quite get the belt wars. I go, you trust me.
Yep.
You say belt wars to sports fans in the Bay Area. Everybody knows
solid
what you're talking about.
I can't remember anybody with the Warriors quite like this. Like going back to.
Neither can I.
I mean, just with this high profile from the very beginning.
Yep.
4 years of essentially the same thing. Like, he's really talented, but can he play? He's really talented, but does he fit? With at the end of a dynasty with Steph and Draymond sitting there, with a coach as proven as Steve Kerr, and all these things happening all at once for 4 years. I can't remember another one like that. I've certainly written a lot about it. I'm a Kuminga guy, but I also am. I understand the reality of this. Yeah, is that the contract is what's going to do it. Like, they would have had to make a decision at some point. Steve just doesn't, he's not likely to play him very much still. At least doesn't intend to going into fifth season, because he doesn't fit with what they're doing when Butler arrived. But you put the contract in that, like, that's going to, if it's a $30 million a year contract, that's going to cost them like $70 million a year if you go luxury tax and first apron and all these things. Can they pay $70 million a year to somebody that they don't know that the coach is going to play? Yeah, hard to do that.
And also, I think you have to look at it. He doesn't fit Steve's eye as to how basketball should be played. He played in Chicago, where they ran the triangle until the end of the game. Then Jordan's Jordan. Kuminga ain't Jordan. For those of you that ain't figured that one out yet, he's not Jordan.
I don't know. Somewhere I see he's better than Jordan.
He played for Pop. Yep. Who was about ball movement, player movement, maybe not as much as Phil, but very similar. And Steve was a role player in both of those organizations, and he understood like what it meant to players to have the ball move. Even if you weren't taking the shot, you were swinging the ball, you were setting a screen, you were involved in the offense. Exactly.
Everybody understood,
and that's not Kuminga's game. Kuminga's game is get the ball, square you up, and go. And sometimes it's a good decision, sometimes it's not. He's not a great rebounder by any stretch. He's not a playmaker, but he can score. And he can, if he ran all the time if he hit the offensive glass and ran, he'd get 10 points a game just off that. But the problem is for me, and I tell people, it's not one or the other. I go, just because Steve doesn't play him doesn't mean he's not talented. He is talented. And just because Steve doesn't play him doesn't mean he couldn't play a little bit and kind of fit. I go, there's a huge gray area, but everybody's turned this into Kuminga's incredible. The Warriors are screwing him by not playing him, and Steve doesn't know how to develop rookies, which I'd say Brandon Pajemski's done okay under Steve, and he plays a different style, right, than the Kuminga. Or he doesn't fit in here, he doesn't know how to play the game, and he can't play, which isn't true either. There's a huge gray area in there somewhere. And it's okay to have a good player that doesn't fit somewhere. When Steph Curry's your guy, you want certain players around him that play a certain way, and that just doesn't, for my money, doesn't work and doesn't really fit Steve's eye anyway. So it will be interesting, but the money is obviously going to be a huge factor.
That's what's going to decide. And it would be tense and weird even without the money.
Yeah.
Because it's been 4 years. I mean, it's literally been 4 years. I mean, the clock has run on this, but the money is what, like, when Steve says, he told me, like, I just can't see him playing 38 minutes in a game, and that's if you're going to pay $70 million is again with luxury taxes and all these things it's going to take and freeze what they can do because they'd go into the apron and all these other things. How can you do that if the coach isn't going to play him regularly, at least at this moment? But there's, Joe Lacob loves him. Had him sitting next to him in the Valkyries game. Joe likes rising assets. Like I get that. He loved Wiseman. He likes these. He does not like to burn assets, and I understand that. But I think Steve's saying proof of concept with 24-8 when Jimmy Butler arrived. Like we were playing Kuminga in Steve's mind. He was fine, but we weren't a great team no matter what. Like give me the set of games where Kuminga made them a good team. He's had individual moments, but not one where, okay, John Kuminga, now you're good. And then Butler arrives while Kuminga's hurt. They take off. Jonathan certainly does not fit with Butler.
No.
And the numbers are decent in his minutes with Steph, but I'll just put it in that locker room. The feeling is that he does not really fit with Steph that much. I'll just put it that way. Or that it's a little bit of a struggle. And there are other players who fit better with Steph. And I don't think it's a shock that one game where Steph's like Steve was playing Kuminga in the fourth quarter and Steph said, get Santos in there. Because it's just a movement, a versatility.
And Guy knows who he is.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You know exactly you know exactly what you're going to get from him, right?
You need certain things going to put Guy Santos in there.
Not everybody has to be a star that can score and do everything. It's like you need role players.
I'll need him over there, and then moves over there, and he's going to move over there. And defend this guy, and then rotate correctly, and then defend that guy. But it just is. I understand the logic of this. It's like the value is that he's good in some unattainable way for the Warriors. Like they can't move themselves to make him valuable enough. Even in the playoffs, when he was scoring, they were losing points every single time he played. Again, I say this as I like JK. I talk to him all the time. I think his talent is obvious. I think it's just they can't fit that into what they're doing. And I don't know that would you tell Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, say, you know what, we're paying him so much he has to play, and you know what, if it screws us up for a little bit, who cares? How do you say that? How do you say that to Draymond? The practical element is that if he had a spot on this team, it would be power forward. As Steve has kept saying, he's a power forward. Well, part of that communication is Draymond's a power forward. It's hard. You can't play those guys together unless Draymond's a 5 and Kuminga can shoot the ball, and he's an erratic shooter. So all these things are in this mix. It's this fast. It gets a little tiring sometimes, but it's real stuff. Like it's real issues. If you don't believe the real issues, like in the side of that Warriors headquarters, it's an issue.
Oh yeah,
because Joe Lacob and other people in the organization really like Kuminga.
They really like him.
But the other thing is, I think, and I've written this, Joe liked Wiseman even more. Like that was his baby, the second pick, 7-footer, going to change the way they play. And we know, like they've had daydreams of playing differently. Like at some point we're going to play differently. We can't just play this way. And Wiseman, and to a lesser extent, Kuminga, were going to be those ways. They still traded Wiseman. Like they still did. Like at some point, Joe Lacob is not a crazy man about that kind of stuff. I think he traded Wiseman thinking Wiseman was still a great player, but he still did it for Gary Payton II. A guy who absolutely fits with what they do. I think they'd want obviously more for Kuminga than that. We'll see. Can they get something usable? Can they not blow up what they're doing with a move? That probably I would think they're going to get like a middle tier player, connector. Steve loves those connectors. Yep. Kind of a 6'7" passing forward who plays some defense and can hit the three. I don't know what that list is, but I just think where they are, who they have, and I guess I'll be harsh even when I say a Kuminga person. When you do talk about him as, okay, if they're ever going to have any of this 2-timeline thing, he's the guy who could be their star after Steph. I don't think he can be that star. I actually don't think that now.
I think on a championship team, he could be your 4th best player.
3rd or 4th, I was going to say.
Maybe 3rd. Yeah. I still think 4th. It was funny when Wiseman, I remember one of the first things I saw online from Wiseman, it was him working out in the gym and hitting 3 after 3 after 3. I'm like, fucking great. We already got enough of those over
Mhm.
here. We already got enough 3-point shooters. We don't need a 7-1 guy
Yeah.
that can like shoot threes. It's like super skill. We need a guy who knows how to play, who knows how to like just under. And that's the problem. The guys that they drafted, you wouldn't really call them, and I hate saying this because I'm not saying they're dumb, but they're not instinctive high IQ basketball players. Because Wiggins was the same. Wiggins was and is a really good player. The game doesn't come easy to him. He's not an instinctive back. He doesn't just get like balls here. I got to be here. When am I going to cut? When do I rotate on defense? How do I weak side? Okay, got this. It's like takes you kind of a half step to recognize what's going on. And I think that's the same thing with Wiseman. He only played 3 games in college. Kuminga, who didn't play in college, played Ignite. And I brought this up yesterday to a buddy of mine. I'm like, you look at Kuminga and like grasping the game. It hasn't been easy for him. He played for that Ignite team. And I'm not saying all those guys are like that, but Jalen Green played for that team for Houston. He's a guy that's ultra talented, ultra athletic, but I don't get the game comes easy to him, like just understanding the game. And the other thing I'll get your thoughts on here. People were always upset with Steve for not developing Kuminga and developing Wiseman. And I tried to explain to people, when teams are going for championships, they don't develop young players. The goal is to win. And if you develop them along the way while you're winning, perfect, great. But they weren't the Rockets at the time who said, look, we suck right now. Let's throw everybody out there. If we lose, that's not the worst thing in the world. Let's develop these guys. That's our priority. For the Warriors, their priority was winning. And if you could develop, that's great, but not at the expense of winning. You're going to walk in there and tell Clay, Steph, and Draymond, hey, we really need to play these guys 25 minutes a game.
They'll be like, do we really need to win the game against the Thunder? Do we really?
Tell Draymond that. That'd go over really well. So, unfortunately for the young guys, it wasn't an ideal situation for them because they didn't get the runway number 2 picks get, number 7 picks get. They didn't get that. So it's just been a bumpy road for everybody. And a lot of it is nobody thought Steph would be this good this late in his career. Nobody thought Draymond would be the viable defender, first team all defensive player this year on the first team all defensive. Clay went down a little bit, but that's kind of what you expected.
2 leg injuries.
Exactly.
Leg injuries,
And the other ones, maybe not to that extent, but you expected some decline. Steph can still be the best guy on a championship team. Draymond can still be a major player on a championship. So now at that point, you're like, well, shit, we're still viable. We can't waste minutes. We got to try to win every game. And that's where they've been in the last couple of years. They started out slow, so they had to like win every game. So it hasn't been a perfect scenario for anybody. And I feel bad for a guy like Kuminga because in a better situation, he'd be in Houston or Washington or Charlotte or wherever, playing 30 minutes a game, learning the game, and seeing what ultimately he could be as a pro.
Although, you know what, Houston, those minutes are not easy there. As we saw.
Now they're not.
And
they were 3 years ago.
Yes, they were 3 years ago. But, I was watching Reed Shepherd. We watched him pregame and go, this guy looks pretty good. He's not getting no minutes in the playoffs. Cam Whitmore, these are guys that like Cam Whitmore is a potential very parallel with Kuminga.
Yeah.
Like incredibly athletic, not much college basketball. He had 1 year, Kuminga had none. But how does that fit when you're not the greatest athlete on the floor?
Yeah.
Because there are other guys who are more athletic than you.
Yeah.
I will say about the young, I hear that all the time, and clearly they've had 3 lottery picks. They've hit on none of them. Moody's going to have a nice career, but he's not which you would have imagined or hoped, and knowing that there were other guys behind him that might have been better picks. Trey Murphy being the obvious one. It's in that locker room again. This like they say this like Steve is tough on young guys, but name me the young guy who they've gone through and has not developed and they've moved on from who's been a star elsewhere. Like Jordan Poole, maybe, but that wasn't Steve. We know that wasn't Steve. That was Draymond. Like they had to move off of Jordan for 2 reasons. Well, Draymond and Clay. And I've heard this more and more that Clay was not comfortable with this guy pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. And Clay thought, I've earned this starting role. Why is this guy keeps saying that he should be the starter? And not publicly, maybe so much as just in the way he carried himself. And that's fine for a young player, but they couldn't keep that guy who got punched by Draymond, not his fault, and who was making things tense with Clay. And so that's Jordan. Whatever we think about where his career is now, I wouldn't put that on Kerr.
Yeah.
But Jacob Evans, James Wiseman, whatever, all these other guys, it's noted in there that these guys who have not done well, young players, but under Steve, have not exactly gone elsewhere and flourished.
Yeah.
And I don't know that Kuminga would. I think he might score some points.
Yeah.
But I think it might be one of the, we've seen guys get a ton of minutes with the Hornets and been bad.
Yeah.
Or been okay.
Well, Poole statistically this year has been okay.
Yes.
We're the Wizards.
Yep.
Wizards stink. So, I mean, look, you've watched the game even longer than I have, but I know this playing the game. One of the veterans told me, he goes, Tom, even on shitty teams, someone has to score and rebound.
Absolutely.
So I always caution myself when I watch a team that's a bad team and somebody puts up big numbers and somebody says how good they are. Like LaMelo Ball is like the first one that pops into my mind, right? It's like, well, okay, how good is he? That team's terrible. And Trae Young, how good is Trae? Like these guys that play for these mediocre or bad teams and put up these insane numbers, I'm like, okay, but what are you doing for a good team? Like, do you know how to win? Can you help a good team? And I only picked those two because they are stars.
That's the LaMelo is interesting because let's say the Warriors should have clearly drafted him.
They were never
to over Wiseman. Like that was not happening.
Yeah,
if they didn't draft Wiseman, well, they were going to try to trade down, and Halliburton actually was the guy.
Yeah,
but they couldn't take him second, and you understand that you had this 7'1" incredible athlete. You just couldn't take him second. It's like when the 49ers couldn't take Deshaun Watson third that year.
Yeah,
because they just wasn't where that was all set up, and Mahomes was there too, by the way.
Yeah.
But that wasn't where you were going to take him. You could say it's wrong to have that general perception. It just was.
I blame Belichick for that, for calling him and offering him Garoppolo.
Yeah, well, when Kyle said, "What about this Kirk Cousins thing coming?" Wait a minute, I don't know if I want to do that. But LaMelo Ball would not have worked with the Warriors. Just would not have done. I mean, Steve would have not liked it, and you had Steph already, you had Clay already.
Yep.
Like that was the reason. Part of the reasoning is like we got $70 million with these two players who both work really well together, and you fit this guy in there. And again, I have heard that a lot recently, just because the Halliburton stuff keeps coming up. Because obviously Halliburton would have been a hell of a pick, Tom. That would have been a hell of a pick.
He's pretty good. He's not bad.
But it would have been fascinating to see how that kind of on-ball player would have played with Steph. But they couldn't do it at 2. If they had 4, they'd take him at 4. They might take Halliburton at 3. But at 2, they just couldn't do it.
No, I agree. You bring up Clay, and I always root for him because he's Clay. I really wish and I hope the ending to his tenure at Golden State didn't kind of sour him in terms of his feeling toward the organization. Like, I don't know one way or another whether he would or not. But I know he felt disrespected that Draymond got the contract that he ended up wanting. And he felt like they offered him, kind of lowballed him a little bit. And I think in his mind, it was, look what I've done for this organization. And in their mind, it was, yeah, but we're going to pay you based on what you're going to do for the organization. And he could never reconcile that. I think it was a Clipper game that year where I knew it was over. When he was sitting on the bench at the end of the game, he was not happy that he was on the bench. And either someone fouled out or a situation arose that Steve wanted Clay to get in the game. So Steve calls him in the game, and you could tell he was not happy that he was going in the game. And I want to say it was a 1 or 2 point game. Warriors hit a 3, cut it to 1 or 2. Clippers inbound the ball. Fucking Clay fouls him. He had no idea what the situation was. Clippers go down, hit 2 free throws. Now it's a 2-possession game. They go on a one. Like, he had checked out.
Now, granted, Clay had done things like that throughout his career.
Well, I got some. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But that was one where he just didn't he wasn't paying attention to the game at all. He was done, and it was just kind of a bummer to watch that happen. That he felt like, and I think, like, they paid him. How much money did they pay him while he was hurt, while he was rehabbing, and but that didn't resonate with him. And I wish he just would have appreciated like where he was in his career more. But I think the Draymond thing was like, well, he got that. I'm with him. We help win the championships together. Why does he get that contract and I don't get that contract? And it was a bummer. It ended up that way.
I agree. I'm hearing more about that just kind of, as we look back over the years, people maybe feel a little more free to talk about it. I don't know what I'm going to write about it, but you know this, and it just, I think it's the leg injuries. Not only that they happen when they happen, they did give him a deal after he got his first injury.
Yeah.
So they had to, and Clay's made a great point about that. He's like, hey, well, they're not going to pay me. They had to, because of who he was. They thought he was only going to miss 1 year, then he missed another year plus. But that there was some, I think there was some tension over that. Like we're paying you $80 million
exactly.
not to have you. We're stinking. These are stuff years too. Like we've lost 2 years essentially. That's okay. I mean, he did it playing, but it made him a lesser player.
Yeah.
He clearly was a lesser player. It was hard for Clay to deal with that. And he's a proud player. That's part of what makes him great. He still could do stuff, but he couldn't defend. And he really couldn't dribble anymore. And he wasn't a great driver anyway. And I just think it was all those things. And sometimes it's self-fulfilling. When you're bitter about it, they're going to say, oh, you know what? Now we're going to pay you because you're pissed off at us while you're a lesser player. And maybe the offer was a little low, but why would we negotiate anymore if you're this pissed off at us? If you're this, that last year was a weird year. There's no question.
He hunted shots way more than he had before. And you could tell like his whole self-worth in his mind on the basketball court was him hitting shots. And when he missed a wide open shot, the shoulders would slump like he couldn't believe it. He's like, he missed 2 in a row. And it was like, you're Klay Thompson. You're one of the greatest shooters of all time. Don't worry about it. Just when you're open, keep shooting. But it was like the hunting of shots. I don't know if he felt like I can't defend, so I have to hit these shots to have any worth on the basketball court. And I don't pretend to get what guys who have been to those heights go through on the way down.
Yeah.
Because I never was, I go, mine was pretty flatline.
Yeah.
It was like mediocre, retire. Okay, you're still mediocre, keep going. I never got to that where you're like, oh man, my mortality, like, oh, I can't get back to what I used to do anymore. And then they don't love me as much. And then Steve had to make the decision to remember he didn't start him, and then he came off
one game in
Utah.
Yeah, and
he lit it up. Clay lit it up and got back in there. But it was a constant fight, and I just hope for his sake and the Warriors' sake, like he meant so much to this organization, and people love Clay, and it was just kind of a bummer, although not. Look, this is how things end, right? This is how dynasties usually end.
What's amazing it's gone on this long.
It really is.
That 22 championship was kind of out of the blue.
It really was. I don't think they expected to win that one.
I mean, it's like we might have to retool, and wait a minute, we're winning championship.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's a ton of competitive pride. It's a ton of who was going to be the beloved? It's Steph and who? And I think there was, I don't know if this is what the Warriors were thinking. I think it partly was Draymond or Clay. It came down to Draymond or Clay. I don't want to get aggregated on this one, but if the aggregators are watching, I think if Steph had it, he's going to pick Draymond.
Yeah,
he was the healthier player. He was the guy who fits so many different ways. I think it wasn't up to Steph, but I think management would agree with that. They kept Draymond after he punched Jordan. Yeah. They kept Draymond after he got suspended twice by the league. And at some point, I think if he had hit another player that year, I think he might have been like, "You're done. You are done."
By the way, player. I think the Warriors. Jeez, easy there.
Nice.
I think that was one thing where I was critical of the Warriors. I think they made a mistake with that one. Not. I mean, they kind of felt like they had to sign with Draymond because they're going to keep Draymond. But I mean, the suspension, and that was just. To me, that was kind of weak. I mean, he just punched another player right in the face. And then I hated when other NBA players would tell me, oh, I've seen that. Yeah. No, you haven't. Yeah. I've seen guys scuffle, but it'd be like me and you squaring up. We're looking at each other and okay, let's go. And then you're throwing blows and I can defend myself. I had never seen in practice ever a guy looking this way and then just getting blindsided with a punch, like a legit punch in the jaw. So I thought that was a situation where they kind of went a little easy. And if I'm Jordan Poole, he had every right to be pissed off. Really? That's all that's it? For that?
Draymond got suspended one game for yelling at Durant.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get suspended for punching Jordan.
Yeah,
So
that
like
was-
that
yeah.
part was, it's the politics of it. It was because they wanted to keep Durant so badly, and
Yep.
the Jordan thing, they were going to give Jordan the contract. So I think they kind of felt that. But then you're reacting to other things and not to the actual thing.
Yeah.
And then what are you telling Draymond by not suspending him there?
Yeah.
But Draymond, one thing about Draymond, and he's done this with me, like he will explain himself. Like he will say, I shouldn't have done that, and I get it. I'm going to do this, this, and this. He did it in the playoffs. We know that comment he did in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But then he comes back and I felt bad. I didn't speak to the media afterwards. I'm going to say I did wrong. Like they always say that. Like Draymond always comes back to you and says, okay, how can I be better?
Yeah.
He does do that. And there's a great appreciation for that in the Warriors kind of galaxy.
Yeah.
Like, and then I'm going to play great the next game. Like you just watch.
Yeah.
I won't do that. Now, 2 years ago when he was getting suspended, different, like he kept doing it. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And there's something to be said is like when Gobert gets at him, like Gobert says, oh, notice how many times he gets suspended when Steph's out. Like, that I think that hits Draymond really hard because it's kind of true sometimes. Now that suspension stuff was there, like whatever, but he does come back to you and he will talk and he will say, listen, I got to do better than that. I know it. I'm going to play great. Like that in the kind of commodification of the NBA, that's what means more.
Yeah.
Will you be playing great? Will you be there in Game 7 in Houston? Will you be locking down Şengün when everything matters? That's what Steph Curry values right there. That's what it is. When you talk about what this dynasty and what Steph's leadership is about, and Steve obviously right there too, it's who's showing up with me because I know I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
Who's with me? Clay was there for him, obviously, in many great moments. Draymond's still there with him.
Yeah.
Absolutely still there with him. That's why they love Jimmy so much. Because Jimmy's there. He's like, where's the battle? Let me go with you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be leading the way with you. Wiggins, not so much. Like that's the point. I wasn't sure about this trade. I mean, obviously Butler was the better player. They got him for not that much. So I was all for that. Yeah. And if they're going to pay extra money, that's Joe Lacob's money. What the hell? It's only 2 years. The part I did not really fully get into, and I'll give Marcus always the credit for this. It's like I was like, Wiggins is still a pretty good player. Like he's really liked in that locker room. Mm-hmm. Miami wanted. That's why they did this deal. Like they wanted Wiggins. That's why the Warriors could do this deal. It's because Miami wanted Wiggins. But Jimmy Butler walks in, and that team is different. And then Marcus said, "That's the value of stardom." Like Wiggins is not that player. Is Butler 2 notches better than him or 3? I don't know. But those are the most important notches in the world. Yeah. Because he can go get the ball and say, I'm beating my guy. Yeah. Damn it. I don't care what you're going to do. And Wiggins will get, you know what? I'm going to pass the ball. Yeah. And Jimmy's like that, the playoff game, like Draymond, you stop Şengün and I am fucking getting that rebound. Yeah. And Wiggins, that's not, again, not to play down Wiggins. It's just that a lot of players are like that. Yeah. The difference is when you get to the guy who's 3 or 4 notches above, it changes because he's got those 4 notches are all the notches in the world.
Well, I think that to me is why I hate comparing players because I almost feel like you got to rip one guy to say you like the other guy. And I like Wiggins. Yep. I do like Wiggins. I'd like I
was in that locker when they traded him. They were very sad.
I like him. He's not Butler. And if somebody were asking me what's the difference, I'd go, well, Jimmy is an instinctive basketball player. Like he gets it. Like he's ahead of the game. Wiggins a little bit behind the game. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean he doesn't have value. Doesn't mean he's not a good player. He's just a little behind the game. And Butler isn't. I didn't appreciate that until he got here and I got a chance to watch him every game. I'm like, oh shit, now I get it. Now I get it. And I'll circle back on Draymond. The one thing about Draymond that I think people miss a little bit, because everybody's always Draymond can't keep doing this. Draymond keeps putting his team in peril. Draymond's choking Gobert. He's slapping Nurkic. He's stepping on Sabonis. He's doing this. And I go, like, I get it. But you got to take the whole package. Yep. This is what makes him who he is. When Bumgarner was pitching here, I hated the fact he had to be the sheriff of baseball every time he went out on the mound. I was like, bro, just pitch, okay? Guy's upset that he popped one up to second. He's mad at himself. You don't need to yell at him when he's running down to first, but that's who he was. Like, that's why you get what you get pitching 5 innings in relief in Kansas City. Like, he has that attitude, like, fuck you, you're mine. And Draymond has not that attitude, but an attitude of like, look, I own you. I'm gonna do this, and I'm intense, and he goes over the line. But I'm not gonna say you can't have one without the other. But with Draymond, that's the package. That's just that's why you have, Steve always says this, and I agree. That's why you have the 4 championships. Because of a guy like Draymond doing what he does, and you'd like it to be like all positive, 0 negative, but that's just not gonna happen with him. It's just not.
I totally agree. Put another, he's never made $40 million. Like,
yeah,
through all this stuff we talk about, he's making 28, 29, whatever. It's a lot of money, but partly because he doesn't score a lot, but also partly because of all this stuff. He's making the max for the max that he could have extended for, but it's never been 40, 44, 46, 48. Like Clay got, and obviously like Steph's gotten. The other part is, yes, it comes with the territory. It's, in Steph Curry is an incredibly passionate player. He's incredibly forceful, but he's not that. He's not Draymond.
No.
And it's just the yin and the yang, the way those two guys operate together, that has been the balance. It's been, what has moved this franchise ahead so far. Put Kerr in there too, put Clay in there too, put Iguodala in there too. Yeah. But it's been Steph and Draymond. And I think that we get back to Clay when we're talking about Draymond. It really did come down to, in some dollars, Draymond or Clay. And as I wrote, they picked Draymond, and there are no regrets. Yep. Like, even during the suspension, well, maybe a little bit during the suspensions part, but not that much. Like, this is the guy, and Clay was still on the team at that point, but this is the guy that, in many ways, obviously the Steph brilliance, the Steph composure, the Steph grace, but like, you look back on this dynasty, I think you're going to look back on Draymond, at least the 10 greatest moments, like 4 of them might be Draymond. 6 of them are going to be Steph or whatever, but got to put Clay in there too. But just that I'm not backing down.
Yeah.
I'm going right at it. We're not backing down. We're going to fight them because I'm going to fight them. I might fight Steve Kerr too at halftime. Yeah. But this thing's going. And the thing that you always clued me in on from the get is that Kerr's right. He's almost as much a maniac. You don't see it,
no doubt.
But he is. I've seen it and I felt it, and it's real.
I felt it at practice.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, bro, settle down.
He goes freaking thermonuclear.
Yes, he does, and it happens quick.
And that's like the part that you don't get when you're just talking to him, or people hear him talk. Is like he and Draymond are just like Draymond goes way higher probably, but Steve's close, and maybe from a coaching view, he's as high as you can get. And
he's as high as there is in the NBA now that Pop's retired.
Yep, exactly.
Because him and Pop are the only two guys that would like just get so mad within like 3 seconds of a non-traveling call or a call that they thought was missed. Like, they just explode off the bench. Doesn't happen as much anymore. The coaches are nicer.
I've heard JB Bickerstaff is nutty.
Is he?
Yeah. Which is, hey, he's a really good coach.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I've heard just from people who know the bench area and kind of hear, he goes, that guy is fired up, man. He is fired up. But that's okay. And Kerr is too. It's just you hear the stories about he and Draymond. Oh, poor Steve. Like, he is freaking giving it back.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not poor Steve. Now, some of it, like I was when he was coming back and he was sick, and then Draymond's like, do you really want to do this, Draymond? But listen, he's treating him like he was like, you're the coach. So this is what I'm going to do, the coach.
Yeah.
You tell me not to shoot the 3. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I'll always give you credit for, you told me that like the day he was hired. Like, no, he's a nut. Like, I told
him before he retires, he owes me a timeless sorta press conference.
Oh,
these cocksuckers, I tell you, it's unbelievable. I go, can you give me one? He gave me a one this year. It was a very, very light version of Tommy Lasorda and then Dave Kingman post-game press conference, where the reporter asked him about, what do you think of Kingman today? What do I think of Kingman?
Yeah.
What do you have, fucking 3 home runs? And said, what do you think I thought of Kingman? So they asked him about, I think it was Shea Gilgeous, Alexander had like 39, and somebody asked him what he thought of Shea. And he said, what I think of Shea. And I could tell where he was going. Now, it didn't get to Lasorda levels. and the Warriors won that game. So it wasn't like it would have been better if you'd have cursed and the Thunder would have won. Then you could have tied. So I told him he owes me one of those. And I'll get to that later in the interview because I want to talk about books and everything. I'm reading the Earl Weaver book.
Okay.
I just missed that.
Yeah.
I missed those managers. I missed those press conferences.
Melvin, did you see the Melvin one where they actually got the mic on it and we got ejected in Detroit?
No.
They had a pretty good field mic and you're just like, you're better than this. You're better. This is why I'm you jerk. You're better than this. You screwed that up. You can't even tell me. Like, you could kind of hear it. Yeah. It was pretty good. Melvin went off. Yeah, it was over a strike call, I guess. Got thrown out for arguing strike. You can't argue strike calls.
Yeah.
So he got tossed. But I want to get back to the Kerr thing. He had one great moment this year, which was not of that Tommy Lasorda level, but it was really interesting. The Kerr thing, they had lost, but Trace, it was beginning to lose his role, which I kind of knew, but most people didn't.
Yeah,
like he's not doing the stuff Steve likes. I know that.
Yeah,
fumble the ball. Don't fumble the ball with Steve Kerr.
Don't fumble the ball.
Do that. And Trace was like not converting at the rim. Trace has talked about it.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew it. But Warriors lose. They're tense. It's not great. Very well-meaning Steve Wagman, a great guy, said, but you got to, it's got to be nice that you can get Trace Jackson, get some production out. It's got to be nice. It's like, you steal it. Nice? Are you asking me what if it's nice? We just lost a game, and you're asking me what's nice. I was like, it's like whoa. I go, I kind of know where this is coming from, but don't ask Steve. It's got to be nice in a game that they lost, and for a player that, let's face it, he was losing a little confidence in. Just because of that. Like, I've covered him long enough. I've talked to him long enough. Like, there's certain things I see. I go, he is not gonna like that. Fumbling the ball. Is like you get the ball at the free throw line and you turn and you fumble it, that you're out. You are out.
Steve's very. I mean, that was a very Popovich answer. Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah.
And he goes, God, he's always told me, he goes, I wish I could say some of the stuff that Pop that says. He goes, I just can't. Mm-hmm. Instead, he's very emotional. Some things will get him going, like if you ask a question that like doesn't fit the narrative of the game, like that'll get him going. But Steve generally is like, when he's not a stark raving lunatic out there, he's a nice guy. Like he doesn't want to, he doesn't need to, like the difference between him and Pop is Pop doesn't mind burying you. And he doesn't mind embarrassing you. In fact, I think part of him laughs at it. Steve doesn't want to do that.
No.
Like Steve has no interest in doing that. He's too good a guy. But there are certain things where like it'll hit him wrong and he's like,
the wording.
What are we talking about here? We just lost the game. Like, what are we talking about? This getting a couple buckets out of this? I want to move on to the Niners, but I wanted to ask you about Steph because you've covered a lot of athletes over your career. Is he the most, and this is a relative term I know, the most normal superstar?
Unquestionably. No, really? No. Like every star's got things. They live a different life, but within that context, Steph is like someone you could just see walking down the street. Like, if he wasn't Steph Curry.
Yeah.
But someone who like, he does like remember the question you asked and he asks you about it. And he's like, he notices things that most stars, they just like, they see the world. That's it. You're in their viewfinder or whatever you are. And then you're never thought of again. That's what I would think. Steph is constantly aware of things, constantly noting things.
Yeah.
And it's not just the game, it's other things. And that's empathy, right? That's like you look, and I'm not saying he's done this, but I'm saying, using an example, like you look different today or you look depressed today. Like, I'm not saying that he's ever said that to me. I'm saying that's something, let's say, Chris Paul wouldn't do. Now, I've talked with Chris. I like him. But Chris is his thing.
Yeah.
And Andre Iguodala, same sort of thing. Unless you're talking about golf with him, which I would do a time or two. And it's just not, they don't think about it because their world's so big, their thing's so big, they just nothing else matters. And I get that. But Steph is like, what's going on with you? Like there is so much more in that. So much. We were talking a little bit beforehand. I was joking that some coverage I laugh about. It's Steph is great. And then the next day, how great is Steph? The next day, here's why Steph's great. Steph doesn't necessarily want that.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, no.
I think he wants like, what's different? Why am I doing, like he likes it when you he does like that. Because I do notice shit like this. Like, why are you sitting there? Why is your warm-up different? Why is you doing more with your left hand than you've been doing in your past? That's the stuff that he kind of likes talking about more so than, oh, you're so great. You changed this great. They changed the game, and then this player worships you. In the Olympics, you are this. Like he doesn't necessarily like talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like the Olympic stuff. Well, even with Steve, like everybody who came through had to get you coached Anthony Edwards in the Olympics, and what did you get from him, and how much did he get? And Steph doesn't love that stuff either. Even like when Anthony Edwards talked about how he learned how to shoot the three from Steph, he did not learn how to shoot the three from Steph, but he wanted to compliment him. And you watch Steph, maybe you do learn stuff, but the kind of gratuitous stuff, I don't think Curry. Maybe some other stars kind of like that stuff. Not everyone, but some. Steph, it's just kind of he wants to talk Carolina Panthers. He wants to talk Scottie Scheffler. He wants has these other interests that are normal conversational stuff, and I don't try to force it on him. Like there's so many other people. I mean, Steph Curry, but like. He will like, oh yeah, last time you asked me about this, but that's your guy and my guy, and like you'll have those kind of conversations. Now Durant's totally different guy. Durant's kind of like has these other interests. He likes talking about photography or the Washington the Commanders or whatever. Different guy. Not saying they're the same, but some guys you can have these other conversations with, and some guys you can't. And Steph is just like he's just a guy who happens to be blessed. 1,000 times more than anyone else has ever been blessed shooting basketball. But there's a reason why everybody comes through there. Every player goes, "This is the greatest guy I've ever." Like it sounds schlocky. Yeah, it sounds like it can't be all true. It's all true. I mean, and me as a cynical human being, I don't want to say it, but it's true. Like it's different there because it's him. It's different. Like it's harder to have these agendas in there. I'm not saying that there haven't been, but it's harder when he doesn't have one. It's hard to, obviously there's been tension. Draymond's brought it, but it's hard because Draymond has to answer to him. You do have to, that's where the locker room is now. It's where the organization is now. How do you do this thing that might not be the best thing or the best human thing when you got to answer to Steph Curry, who is going to want to do the best thing? And that's a great thing to have. There just aren't. What other figure? Duncan. I mean, obviously Steve dealt with Duncan. Duncan would be the other one. I don't know how many others there are in modern sports. You can say like that.
I look at Steph, and I haven't really gone in depth with this, but I thought I wonder if he's the greatest. Certainly one of the greatest, but the greatest face of a franchise ever. Because I look at Tim Duncan, and I go, great face of a franchise. But he didn't want to put himself out there like Steph did. Michael Jordan, arguably the greatest player of all time. I mean, that's a great face of a franchise. He's making you a bunch of money. But he was apart from the rest of the Bulls. Like he did his own thing.
I think there was his documentary.
He was his own brand. He was his own entity, right?
I'd say Magic.
Magic definitely, but Magic had some issues too.
Oh no, coaching,
But that's the thing. Yeah. Steph's never had those issues. Like I agree with you. Magic, and he's my favorite player growing up. My favorite player of all time. It just you look at the whole package. Like you look at how great Steph is. You look at how personable Steph is. You look at a guy who doesn't mind representing the organization and putting himself out there. Like I always look at a guy like Trout and Posey, and Posey won the championships. Trout hasn't. But those guys just wanted to play. Yeah. They're like, I don't want to deal with the other stuff. Just let me play. And they both represented their organizations and fan bases and teams beautifully. I mean, those are the guys you want. Guys that just want to go ball. I don't want to deal with any of the BS. Just let me go do my thing. But Steph will do some of that stuff to promote, himself, not necessarily himself, but the team and the organization. And he does it with such a charisma that he enjoys doing it. Like, I'm an Angel fan. Trout has no interest in doing any of that. Like, he just wants to play when he can play. Come back, Mike. We love you. 10 more games. I don't know. But he might be one of the greatest faces of the franchise ever for everything he's done, and then the stuff he hasn't done that causes like I don't know how you would put it. It casts a negative light on the organization. Yeah, something like that. Where you're like, you're going to call it 3. You never have to worry about a 3 a.m. call about Steph Curry. So it just
I was like, I have heard this from old baseball guys. Certainly didn't ever cover them. That Musial was like that.
Was he?
Yeah, in a different age, different time. Yeah. I don't know what media thinks, but everybody who went through there loved him, and everybody on the team knew he was the guy.
Yeah,
but he wasn't self-effacing. He was self-effacing. He wasn't like everybody. Look at me. Now I don't know that. I didn't cover him, but when you start talking like this, I hadn't really thought about it. The name I have heard, just like the guy, that's it. The franchise, and it wasn't any problems with Stan Musial. And obviously incredible player.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm sure there are other examples, but that's the one that comes to mind from what I've heard from other people. I'm trying to think.
How many superstars are one of the guys?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, just start there and then kind of work your way out.
Brady, certainly not.
Yep.
Montana, no.
Yep.
It wasn't a long enough career. I think you can compare it to Curry's.
Bonds.
Probably not.
Do we need to say no?
Probably not.
Do we need to say no?
But the Posey thing is the right point. Like, he didn't want the larger.
He just wanted to play.
And like I wrote a piece where I compared the two. They debuted like a couple months between
each other,
and they're very similar age.
Wow.
From the South, like all these things. I wrote a lot about it, and they both were talking to it because they both kind of see these similarities, but not the Steph presence. Both Under Armour, by the way. I don't know, like NFL. It's hard. Those careers are shorter. It almost have to be a quarterback, but quarterbacks are separate so often.
Yeah, I don't know.
Peyton in Indy, I don't know. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not close enough to that. I don't know. I just don't know how you could be better than Steph.
Yeah,
as a face of the franchise for an organization. I mean, look,
I think Mahomes is going to come close.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And the only reason they have Chase is Steph.
Oh, got you.
I mean, and I always say this. I mean, with all due respect, I always say, look, Lacob and Peter Guber have done an incredible job with the Warriors. The resources and the people they've hired, and they want to win, which is number one. Like, they want to win, and that's the number one thing I want in my owner. Bob Myers, Steve Kerr, now Mike Dunleavy, Rick Welts. I mean, they've had an incredible group of people over there. And I give them their all due respect. I say, let's never forget one thing. Steph Curry predated all those people. And if Steph Curry isn't there, then a lot of this stuff more than likely does not happen. And they're still playing in Oakland. They're not playing over in so that's how much Steph Curry means to an organization.
Now, Steph probably would not love the idea that not for him they would still be playing in Oakland because he kind of like Oakland.
I know. But hey, so do I. After the game, I was home in 7 minutes. You kidding me? I loved Oakland. That's where I played.
Exactly. But I know your point.
Great pot smell too when I was playing back in the day. It's incredible.
The old Oracle Arena. My God.
Exactly.
But I think the point is like the later years at Oracle were kind of like it was the tech bros because they had moved in, the ticket prices gone up. So people ask me like, "Oh, the playoff is the atmosphere different at Chase than it was at Oracle?" Similar to the end of the Oracle term. Now, Oracle's still louder feeling place and more social place. Doesn't have all the suites.
Yeah.
But like nothing was like 2007. Like nothing. There will never be anything. And those were just regular people sitting in front row. What wasn't the tech bros? Tech bros came later. And God bless them, but they're not the same kind of fans.
Loudest arena I've ever heard.
Oh my God! I mean,
incredible,
ringing ears for days.
All that pent up energy they had.
Oh my! I tell this story like I was doing some NBA TV thing, which I don't do, but I was doing it before the first game of the Dallas series at home. First, it was game 3. I was just happened to be there, and the tunnel they're walking out, they're running out. That's where they had the camera. So I was like, right before they're running out, I'm doing it, and so then I kind of pop out and I see Petrus. He used to run out with a We Believe shirt. Remember that? Like I see that, and they're like looking into me, like, what are you doing here? And so like I just kind of follow them out, And that explosion of sound when they ran out, this is for their final warm up. So the crowd was all there. It was like knocked me over. It's like, what is like? I've heard this place and it's been loud. I cannot. The physical attributes of that were, I just like, you just weren't ready because I had never really done that because I was doing the NBA TV thing. So it's not like I ever ran out the tunnel when they were running out. It just was one of those things. I wasn't running, but I was following them. It's like it was just one of those. Oh, I guess I'll come out the tunnel now. It was shattering. I mean, everything is shaking, and it's never been like that. Like
no,
you can't duplicate that, and you can't duplicate. No, maybe if you charge $20 a seat, you can, but they're going to charge $20 a seat.
Yeah.
Well,
look, I always and I tell people this too. I say, look, you're never going to replicate that, even if it was still at Oracle, and if it was still those same people.
Mm-hmm.
They've won now. Yeah, the bar is that was back. They hadn't made the playoffs in 20 years. They haven't had an all-star. Like I forget who. I don't know if David Lee was. No, he wasn't even there yet. That was Barron and all those guys.
Yep.
So I go. The pent-up energy was that we haven't been here in a while. We're going to let it loose.
And it's such a great NBA town that had not been.
Great NBA town.
It was great fans.
I mean, when I was playing, I think one year, I don't know if it was my first year or second year, we had like a 14-game winning streak at home. And we were hard to beat at home, and the crowd was incredible, and they got going, and we were running, and it was a great place to play. And I always appreciated that about Oakland was like just the basketball savvy fans that would show up and knew when to cheer, they didn't get the credit they deserved just because we weren't winning a ton of games.
Yeah.
But man, it was awesome to see. I figure it's 14,000, 14,000, whatever it was. Sold it out all the time. Still a hard ticket to get back then because we were winning and we played a fun style.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, ultimately there's 3 Hall of Famers on that team. So it was good times. Like I miss those days playing over there in front of those fans, and so much has changed. Like that was a mom and pop shop.
Yep.
Now the Warriors and every other NBA team's like a major corporation.
Billions,
you watch coaches come out. Everybody has their own shooting time, right? They're coming out. We just roll out onto the court, shoot around a little bit, maybe warm up. Okay, what shots am I going to shoot in the game? Okay, let's get some of those up.
Timmy, I want the ball right here.
Yeah, there's 2 ball boys passing back to it. There's no coaches coming out there with us. If you had a problem with something, you go back and see Tommy Abner now, or like there's no medical staff, and you're just like, we're ready for the game. Show up, and like we used to show up for a 7:30 game at 6. Like that's when you had to be there. That was like drop dead time, 6 o'clock. So an hour and a half before the game, guys are showing up.
Traffic might be later than that.
Might be a little bit later. I mean, most of us lived in Alameda. Me and Molly and Nellie lived in Harbor Bay or Brittany Land. Was it Brittany Land in Harbor Bay? But we lived in the same neighborhood. So I just figured, I'll see when Coach goes, and I'll leave right after him. Like I'm not going to be too bad. I won't be too late if I do that. But we all lived over there. Then Mitch and St. Jean, Gary St. Jean lived over here. I think Timmy and Rod might have lived in Moraga, but most of us were right here. So like 5 minutes to the arena. So that was great. One of my favorite stories when I got cut from the Warriors, Nelly came over and actually told me, he knocked on the door and told me that they were going to release me. And he was walking his pig at the time. he had a potbelly pig he'd take for a walk in the neighborhood. I go, hey, there's Coach. He got his pig. He's walking his little pig over there. But I always appreciated that he came over to the house. But no, it was a fun time. It really was. And to think that will ever be recreated, 2007, it's not. It's just not, because the whole game has changed. The organizations have changed. The structure has changed. What used to take 9 guys to do now takes 40 guys to do. A lot of it, I'm like, what do these fucking guys do out here anyway? By the way, I mean, do you really?
They all work hard.
Do we really need all these people out here? Yeah. Okay, let me ask you this, because I want to get. We're gonna take a beer break here in a minute, and I want to get to the Niners, and then some other fun stuff. With God, what was I going to ask? With the staff, I was going to ask you about the staffs and everybody. God, I totally lost my mind. I said beer break, and I lost I lost my train of thought. Maybe it'll come back to me. And she's hungry too.
Yeah. She got ready for a break. Lulu break.
She's like, She's like, "Are we eating
Where's
now, or what are
Rado?
we
I want to
doing?"
lick that face. I want to
Oh
lick that
God!
face.
Like I said, she almost drowned him. She almost drowned him. All right, you guys ready for a beer break? Throw out the beer break sign, and I'll go feed Lou, and then we'll come back and ask Tim about the 49ers.
Fort Niners.
Niners. We'll get to Brock Purdy and the Niners' chances this year and the schedule and all that
You don't
kind
have
of
your
stuff.
sign from Friday?
Oh, I don't. I had my sign that it just said "beer break, bitches," and I just
like a drive-in movie theater.
Well, because I didn't know, I set everything up by myself back here, which was like, we'll see how this goes. We'll see if this ends up working out, and it ended up working out okay. But I didn't know if we'd have the Homer Simpson beer break sign, so I made my own sign. I'll bring it back out here for everybody to look at, just in case. So, all right, we'll come back in about 2 minutes. I'm gonna feed Lou, grab a beer, and get some fresheners for everybody. All right. All right, we're back with Tim Kawakami of the Standard. I would suggest you subscribe to the Standard for all his coverage. David Lombardi's on there as well, and I guess a friend of mine, Kerry Crowley's in.
Kerry Crowley's my sports editor.
Nice,
Absolutely doing great.
Nice. I love Kerry.
I think Kerry's going to be doing a podcast pretty soon.
Is he really?
It's a Standards podcast. I kind of do my own, but I think we're going to be having different voices coming. John Shea.
Oh yeah, that John Shea.
Danny Emmerman covering the Warriors.
That was very cool.
Might have more. No, it's a really nice staff. Really, really loving the way it's been put together.
Very cool. All right, I'm gonna drink a hazy train now. A little field work. I guess you can get this at the Baller game now. The Ballers game's over, and they're supporting the
local brews.
Yeah, I guess. So I'm gonna try like I said, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it for the first time in a while. Of course, I've had all their beers, and Barry Braden over there at Fieldwork does a great job. So let's pour that. We'll be good to go.
Product placement, is that what that is, or just
well, gets me nothing.
Yeah.
I just enjoy their beer.
Yes,
I try to get people to drink good beer.
Yeah.
So we got Fieldwork here. We got Sante Darius here, and I just try. Everybody that knows me knows I love craft beer, especially the local craft beer. And when I find good ones that I like, I try to introduce them to people to go give them a shot. All right, let's get to the Niners.
Yep.
Brock Purdy signs, and look, I want to get your take on it. I thought it was a great deal for both parties. I don't get too caught up into the AAV, but that seemed to fit in to where you would think it would fit in. The guaranteed money seemed to fit in where you think the guaranteed money would fit in. And the one thing that surprised me a little bit was at time of signing, the percentage of the salary cap that they took up. His was lower than like all the guys that I was looking at, because the way I look at him, it's Burrow, Allen, Mahomes, and Jackson. Those are the top four. And then I'd still put Stafford ahead of him, although Stafford's in a different category because he's older. But to me, Love, Hurts, Goff, Stroud,
Herbert.
Yeah, exactly. All those guys you want to put in there. He fits in well with those guys, depending on, what you value, what you don't value. And I just looked at it and go, he didn't try to break the bank. The 49ers did right by him. They gave him a nice contract commensurate with what he's brought to the team. And yeah, he might be worth more to the Niners than any other team, but who cares? He's your quarterback, so you're going to pay him like that. I don't know. When I saw that, I go, you know what? That just seems right.
Yeah,
it just seemed like a good contract.
How weird.
Yeah, I know. Go figure, huh?
It make common sense in negotiation.
Yeah.
Particularly after the 49ers went through what they went through, and I was critical of them. They purged out a bunch of veteran players that I don't think they had to, but they said, we got this Purdy deal coming up. We know we need to save some dollars for that. Again, it's not, I always say this, I'm going to keep saying it. I'm pedantic on it. It's not the cap.
Yep.
It's cash. It's what Jed York has to pay out of his pocket, because they are fine under the cap.
Yeah.
But there's still a finite number that a owner would want to pay. So yes, they were saving against that by getting rid of a lot of players. I think they went overboard on it, but that's okay. This is their plan. Then you had better put the dollars up for Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
And I had heard from the beginning, even while they were going, I checked back with people like, you guys just cut Leonard Floyd. You just cut Kyle Juszczyk, who came back.
Yeah.
You just traded deep. Like, is Brock going to be jammed here? And I kept hearing, no. They're going to, this is okay. This is okay. And I asked Purdy that question at his presser. He said, yeah, I mean, kind of while it was happening, they called me and said, you're still our priority. But sometimes that breaks down, right? We've heard many times when it's looking good. And oh, wait a minute, crap. It's terrible right now. We're going to make him play out his year, and it's going to be bitter. Like, they've done this before. So common sense won out. Again, maybe long odds against that. But I do think if I want to give them credit for, they did have a plan now, and I can be critical of plan. I think they're a worse football team than they were last year. They were 6-11 last year for a lot of reasons. But that doesn't mean everything gets fixed in an off season.
Yeah.
Guys still can get hurt.
Yep.
Rookies can still not do it. Rookies can get hurt. But the plan was, we're going to retool on the fly. We're going to keep the guys that we really like. And I guess it really came down to what 6-11 did. It kind of showed them the guys that they thought were overpaid and the guys that they want to keep. And Deebo Samuel was somebody they did not want to pay anymore. Leonard Floyd, you could go through the list of players, Javarius Ward, and then not trying to be in a negative light, they just weren't going to pay these guys anymore. Aaron Banks, whatever it took to keep these guys or move off these guys. And the important combo to that, though, is and the players they would want to pay. Like they didn't just say we want to get rid of people. There were players that they want to pay. Fred Warner, George Kittle, Brock Purdy. And I don't think it's enough, clearly, in my to be a Super Bowl champion. But, and I would still argue, if you have a chance to win the Super Bowl, you try to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And this is not a team that tried to win the Super Bowl. I will always say that. I'm getting criticized by 49er fans. Fine. I'm sure not beloved in Jed York's office at this moment. That's fine. Super Bowl's at Levi Stadium, too, by the way. Not that shouldn't. Super Bowl's always valuable. This is a Super Bowl in your backyard. You have this great chance, this really weak schedule. You get the NFC South, AFC South. But, okay, if you're going to make that decision, you better pay the right guys then. You better say there are players who these money goes to, and they did do that, and I'll give them credit for that. They still don't have a great right tackle. They still don't have a great center. They still don't have a great right guard. They still don't have somebody to replace Trent Williams. Like, I'll go through the list. They have rookies essentially penciled in to play starting roles on the defensive line. Like, these are all questionable things. But everything's in context. And if you're going to do that, you better do these other things. And I think, like, I'm the same as you. AAV, what is that? It can all be manipulated. But I think it did matter to Purdy and his agent to get to 53. I think they wanted that number out. And that's fine. That's what you value. I think it did matter to them that they got, a nice guarantee through 3 years. It's going to be like $120 million through 3 years. It's going to be very hard for the 49ers to get out of this after 3 years without paying 120. The different triggers. So he's going to be there for 3 years. Essentially 3 years, 120, 125, something like that. That's what he's worth. I understand that value. And if they made him play out on $5.2 million this year and then threatened to franchise tag him and get him pissed off, what does that get you really? That's the path of the quarterback to exit. And if your quarterback exits, your head coach is probably exiting. Like, you're probably like blowing the whole thing up. And do you want to do that when you have Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams and Nick Bosa and Fred Warner? So I agree with a lot of the logic of it. I don't love the way they started it, but it just made sense. These two sides belong together. Unless Jed's exiting from Shanahan, which clearly he's not. Then this is the way you want to do it. And I think they could have paid more, or Purdy could have taken, this was a compromise. And like, if Purdy stinks or gets hurt, they're kind of screwed. And if Purdy's great, he probably should have got more. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's the way you want it on both sides. And gives them a shot. It's like, okay, this quarterback is probably going to be our quarterback for the next 5 years. This is a window. Quarterbacks are windows. Like, we've seen great defenses get built, and that defense is going to be great for many years, and it breaks apart because defenses are hard to keep together. You lose your coordinator, which the 49ers said they brought him back. But like, there are pieces of a team that are hard to keep together. The quarterback pretty much stays the same. Like, that's what you've seen the Tom Brady with the Patriots kind of reassembling a couple times with Brady's run. Peyton Manning's long. He did it with the Colts. Did it with the Colts again. Then did it with the Broncos. He won 2 champions, right? But he had all these different kind of eras with him. No other players really do that. There's no other. It's hard to do that except for quarterbacks. They got their guy, and if they didn't have Purdy, who the hell were they going to have a quarterback? Like, who's their future quarterback if it's not him? If you're hanging on to him and you're forcing him to like make a decision in a year, who's your quarterback? I mean, it's not Mac Jones. People want to throw him out there. It is not Mac. That is not the quarterback of the future. So it just made sense, and I give the 49ers credit, and I give Purdy credit for being sensible. And we don't often see that. And when you talk about Curry, and Curry's made the max, whatever, but he's never like, I'm going to leave. I'm like, no, just, this is what the value is. We value you. Let's do it the right way. And the 49ers and Purdy did that. And I think it really does signal that they're going to want to keep Shanahan and Lynch for several years, which I think is smart too. Now they're going 9th year without winning a Super Bowl, but getting to 2 is pretty freaking good too. And probably should have won at least one of those, and maybe we should have. I mean, Shanahan thinks they should have won 3 of them. So this is a good time for the 49ers. This is still a good era. You don't want to rush to the end of it. Now let's see if they retool on deep. Let's see how that works though.
I've come to the conclusion that we're never going to escape the is Brock Purdy really good
I
era? Like, I thought we would have escaped that over a year ago.
I agree.
And people cannot let go of the fact that he was the last pick of the draft. They can't. They just they can't.
6'1".
It's in their heads, and they already made up their mind, and they don't want to let it go. Like, they're like, I'm going to be right. I don't care if I'm going to be right 5 years down the line or 6 years down the line. I'm going to find something in Brock Purdy, whether it's game by game, week by week, month by month, that, you know, I'll point to. Like, it always bothered me when they say, well, look at all the weapons he had. I was like, well, let me look. Who'd Peyton Manning have? He had Reggie Wayne. He had Marvin Harrison. He had Edgerrin James. He had Dallas Clark. He had, who was it? Stokely was his slot receiver. I go, he had great weapons. I don't remember anybody ever bringing that up because, well, he was Peyton Manning, who was drafted first overall. Who'd Kurt Warner have? Let's see. He had Bruce. He had Holt. He had Falk. Forget who their tight end was at the time. And was it Hakeem?
Didn't have tight end. He went 3 rides.
That's right. Who was it? Was it Hakeem, the slot receiver?
Yeah, Aziz.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But I go, and they're like, well, yeah, but he was undrafted. I go, yeah, but he looked the part. Like, Kurt Warner's big, strapping guy. You look at him and go, okay, I got to get that. They look at Purdy, he's small, kind of unassuming, last pick in the draft. So when's that Purdy going to show up? And I always say, coaches don't care where you're drafted once you're in camp. Either you can play or you can't play. I go, it doesn't happen often, but occasionally it does happen where the right fit presents itself to the right type of player, and there's a bond between them and the coach and the system and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know what Purdy is ultimately, but you can win a Super Bowl with Purdy. You've been to 2 Super Bowls. You probably won with him. You probably should have. I just don't know. I go, if it didn't end a year ago, it's just never going to end. No. People are either going to believe in him. Like, I believe him. I think he's one of the 10, 12, whatever. Like I said, there's 4. He's not in that group. Stafford's a different guy. And then there's a group of like 7 or 8 that he's in that group with those guys. And if you don't believe that, at this point, you're never going to believe that.
No, you know it's going to be, $53 million quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't make that throw.
Exactly.
And, okay. You know,
go win us some games.
Yeah, we're in that world. But it's really win a Super Bowl. That's really what it is now. Yeah. And I kind of don't love that because winning Super Bowls are hard. Especially when you got to go through the freaking red team in Kansas City.
Yep.
And they've had to do it twice and lost twice. And it's just, this all or nothing thing, right? Like, I'm watching the Super Bowl, so it's the only game that matters. And like, there's other, like, beating the Lions in the NFC Championship game was pretty big too. So you don't count that. You couldn't win a big game. I don't love this. It's all or it's terrible. It's everything or it's terrible. Yeah. I think it's just the society we're kind of in right now. Yeah. But if you got to appreciate that the chance to win a Super Bowl, I know you're going to have to win one to be great, but the chance to win one is better than not ever having that chance. And I was like, I know.
You know what? Let me think about. Yeah, you're right. I think you're right.
I know the coaches and the quarterbacks who never get there are worse than the ones who do get there. Yeah, I know this. I don't understand this constant. Was Harbaugh less of a coach when he didn't win a Super Bowl than he is after he wins the national championship with Michigan? No, He was just a fantastic coach.
And still is.
It still is. And Mike Navy was at his best with Stanford, by the way.
Yeah.
He won a freaking Orange Bowl at Stanford.
Incredible.
They were one of the best teams in the nation.
And the fact that people say, well, you can't win the big one. Yeah. I'm like, well, I don't know. How many road playoff games has Shanahan teams won? How many NFC championship games have they won? Are those not big ones? He hasn't won the biggest one, but those other ones are big ones.
And it's not like he got blown out in the biggest one either.
Not at all.
It's the all or nothing thing that I really dislike. Yeah. But as I've talked to Curry and Kurt and others about this, the Warriors, like, you guys are lucky you won the first time you went, because you just never had that worry again. Nope. Like, say they had lost that one and then win 73 and then lost the next one, like they did, then there would be, oh my God, they can't do it. And you would have been almost as good a team, maybe just as good a team, yet they would have this thing on you that the 49ers now have. Like, you need to know this. The Warriors are obsessed by the 49ers. And the 49ers are obsessed by the Warriors. Like, that's why I have this benefit of covering both. So I have both sides asking me about the other. And the real difference is this tension you have around the 49ers, which is self-imposed too. You do want to win, that the Warriors have never had, because they won the first time. And they've had Curry, which is just a generational thing.
Yep.
But the 49ers had every chance to win that first one. They win that first
They
one.
did.
Then this whole era is looked at differently. Jimmy Garoppolo is looked at differently.
Yeah.
Okay. Then they win. If they had lose that one and they win this last one, Brock Purdy's like, would there be even a question in anybody's mind whether he should get 53? No, it would have been should he get 60?
Yeah.
So
I the first one, Mosley bit on that in route. Tyreek.
Yeah, that was.
By the way, at the Niners,
that Bosa got held. And all those things.
I had the Niners 45-1 to win the Super Bowl that year. I'll never get that opportunity. I got to bring it up every time because I'll never get that opportunity again.
You didn't try to save hedge? It? Yeah, hedge that one.
Well, I did, but I didn't. What I did is I covered the original bet.
Yeah, so you don't lose. You're not.
So I didn't have it because I'm like, I think they're going to win this. Mm-hmm. And then fourth quarter, I was like, 45-1. I'll never. And then no, because I can't have nice things. I can't do that. You can't hit a 45-1 shot where beginning of the season, I called that. Yeah. I called it.
They've suffered so many hard losses. And I've talked a little bit about this with Shanahan. They don't want to judge the hardest one. I think the one that they took the hardest, the one that I felt that they took the hardest was the Eagles NFC Championship game because they felt they had a better team. And once Purdy went out, they didn't actually have the chance to play that game. And, you can think of it differently. The Rams NFC Championship game where they had the chance to make the interception and win that game. Yep. There's so many the Super Bowls clearly were devastating. The one that maybe this Super Bowl because it went to overtime, because they had the lead, because a lot, I think this is the quarterback that Shanahan feels the best about that he's had with the 49ers. Yep. I know that. But I still heard the Eagles won because they'd won the 11-12 in a row. They just felt they were the best team in the league. They really felt that. And they might have been the best team in the league. And to have Purdy go out like that in the first quarter, that's the most emotional I've ever seen Shanahan. And he's been emotional after some of these games. But that's the one where he was almost at a loss of words. And I think he said to me, he was emotional on the headset during the game. Just because they had to go through the rest of the game. They didn't have a quarterback in the second half. Christian McCaffrey running, read option. So, but
that was something.
That was
you knew you're in trouble at that point.
That was unbelievable.
We're just what are we doing here? Go back to 1942.
And that's when I was talking to Shanahan once about that. He's like, you could have had a third quarterback. I was like, no, nobody's ever had two quarterbacks that lost. Yeah, but you just did. Maybe you want to add a third quarterback. But that's a whole other thing. It's part of my interesting conversation with Shanahan. But I don't think they're set up to win a Super Bowl. I've said that. I will go with that unless they strike magic with this rookie class.
Yeah.
But they really have to. This isn't, maybe these guys could be good. Last year's class was really good. And, it bounced back from some bad ones. But none of them were you got to play. You must play.
Yeah.
None of them. Pooney was just good. And that's how he gets in as the right guard. This class, they need three starters. They need Nick Martin to start as their weak side linebacker. They need Michael Williams to start as one of the defensive ends, and they need I can't even remember the defense. Alfred Williams, I think is the name, to start as defense. They need that, or at least to give them major reps. Yeah. Maybe they're really good. Maybe they're not. I am not sure that there is this magic potion that your draft choices are automatically good. I've not felt that. And I have heard that from 49er fans. And
really? They're going to be automatically good?
Yeah. If you drafted them, that's good. It's I don't know about that.
Are you a Fletch guy? You watch the movie Fletch?
I've watched it, but I have not watched
okay. Every time somebody says Dominic Pooney, I always think of the line, what kind of name is Pooney anyway? Comanche Indian. Anybody that watches Fletch will know that line. You won't know, but it's a
That's
classic.
from the original or from the new one?
No, the original.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The original.
You must be original. Chevy Chase.
6'8" with the afro.
Yeah, because I started to watch the new one, and I got a little bored with it.
The John Hamm one.
Yeah.
I watched, I was like, I couldn't help myself. I'm like, well, and I like John Hamm, but it's not Fletch. It's not Chevy Chase. Back when Chevy Chase was funny, before he decided to do a talk show and he wasn't funny.
Was very funny back then.
I was like, bro, this is a bad show. What are you doing here? Vacation.
I don't think Chevy likes talking to people, so that's hard to do a talk show when he's not talking to people.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But Fletch is one of my all-time favorites. I love that show. It's got the little bit of the sports angle, and again, Chevy Chase was hilarious. So let me Here's why I think the Niners have a chance to win the Super Bowl. And I think I might take them this year to win the division. They're favored to win the division. I think they're plus 145. Rams are plus
play schedule.
Yep, exactly. Because the Rams are plus 175. So the Niners are favored, Rams are second, and it's because of schedule. I don't think anybody would argue the fact the Rams probably have a better roster right now than the 49ers do. Now, a lot will depend on the rookies, but right now, that Rams defense is really good. You got Stafford, you got Nakua and Adams, and you got Williams. I mean, they're pretty set. And McVay is a great coach as well. So I can see that. But I do think there's something to the 49ers last year being emotionally, physically, spiritually, if you want, exhausted. Like, I think they were exhausted after the 3-year run that they just had. So I think the motivation's going to help. I think the fact that they have that schedule will help. And I think the fact that they have their quarterback settled will help. And they got enough star players. Now, offensive line could be an issue. Who's going to be your number one receiver? Pearsall, Jennings, who knows? I mean, is it going to be
Ayuk is out.
Yeah. Exactly. So I don't know what you have there. Defense line, we don't know. You got Bosa, and you're not sure exactly what you're going to have in the middle. So linebacker, I think they're good. I mean, you get the best linebacker in the game in Warner, and then what's the kid's name out of Okie State? Martin.
Yeah, he better be good.
Yeah, exactly. DBs, I think, will be fine. Safety's a little worried about with Mustafa being out for most of the season. And then God, I don't want to talk about Moody anymore. Like, I mean, we talk about kickers more than you were ever supposed to talk about kickers when it's a football season. Like, let's talk about the offense, defense, not kickers. But
you know who loves talking about kickers? Kyle Shanahan.
Oh, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he's a big fan.
Ask me more about kickers, special teams. Give me special. You got a little mad at me when I was asking him about that.
Oh, really?
Well, like, you never show up for special teams practice. You barely know the name of your kicker. Like I did. Like, he asked, "Oh, why are you saying that?" I go, "Well, like, I don't think you know the name of your kicker." So I said that to him.
Did he go Glanville? Hey, 19, get over here. Good job, 19. Way to go.
Whatever his name
Good job. So I think it'll be. To your point, though, a lot of it's going to be how the rookies show up, and we don't know. I don't know why people are so convinced of how their rookies are going to play. Like,
well, because they're
coaches don't even know how they're going to play.
Because there's these unknown, they're these precious entities. Like, you haven't seen them screw up, so they must be great. Well, I don't know about that. Drake Jackson was supposed to be great too, right?
Yeah, he was.
You know, Cam Latu was supposed to be great, and
didn't quite work out.
Let's see what they look. It really makes a difference. Like, when you just literally football more than any other sport, I think it's like when you draft a player, you do not know what he's going to be until you see him in pads on the practice field. Then you got a much better idea. Sometimes, absolutely, yes, that guy. Like, you know, I mean,
like Bosa coming out of Ohio State, you watched him play. You're like, okay, this guy's gonna be fantastic.
Patrick Willis.
Yes,
we saw something. Okay, he's. I don't know if he's gonna be great. He's gonna be good, and he was turned out to be great.
Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, you see him run around, that guy. But some guys, Alfred Jenkins or AJ Jenkins, when they drafted, remember him, the receiver.
Illinois,
like, you looked at his rookie camp, you go, what is this guy? Like, he can't even get through a rookie camp. There's a huge difference. Now, Purdy was different because he didn't look like much. I will say this. Papa was always saying, "Oh, this guy." Like, I didn't see it as a rookie. I saw it once he played. Yeah. But once as a rookie, he just looked like a guy who was dumping off passes. Turns out it was always the right pass. Yeah. But just like generally, let's say the guys on the line, the linebackers, the cornerbacks, the receiver, like those guys, you can pretty much tell. That's why I love training camp. I love mini camp. I love OTAs because you can kind of tell how guys react to each other, how the play reacts to that guy. Yeah. And we don't know. We really don't know because I've heard every team misses on the draft. Like every single team, because it's hard. And you're taking these guys, this linebacker versus that 6'1" linebacker versus that 6'2" safety versus it's a mix. It's a gamble. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you don't. And, again, I hear so much about this great draft last year, and it was very good. Any stars in that? Like, any Pro Bowlers? Maybe Pooney. That's it. Yeah. I don't think Pearsall's going to be a Pro Bowler. I don't think.
Was Mustafa last year?
Mustafa, he's pretty good. He's good. Now, he's got a chance. And Bernardo Green's solid. Like, these are good players. are they the players who are going to take you to we talk about that, timeline, like the Pro Bowlers are going to replace Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Fred Warner. Those are great players, and the 49ers deserve credit for getting them. But I'm just not going to write these guys down as the next guys. I want to see it, and it's rare to get a bunch of like when they've had all this talent, which we've talked about. They keep adding. I remember the day Christian McCaffrey showed up. Like, I can't believe how many great players they have in this locker room.
Yeah,
Bosa, Warner, Kittle, Trent Williams, Ayuk, Debo, quarterback. The quarterback Purdy was smoking at that point. Well, he wasn't quite at that point, but was about to lead them on a 10-game, at the end of a 10-game winning streak. That's hard to do. And let's see them do it again, because they're going to have to kind of do it again. But they got really good players. Listen, McCaffrey's healthy. If Ayuk comes back strong, they should win a lot of games. Maybe not 13, but they should be in that 10-11.
Yeah, because
of the schedule. Those great primetime games is Carolina and Atlanta. Like, this tells you how crappy that schedule is.
Yeah, it's not a great viewing schedule.
Like, what in the hell?
But
Carolina.
Shanahan's happy about it.
Oh, he's very happy about that.
It's a fun schedule.
Well, he's very happy about it.
And I read somewhere where they gained 9, if you believe in this sort of thing, 9 rest days.
Yes.
Throughout the course of the year.
Minus 21 the previous year.
Exactly.
Yeah. But as I always point out, the reason why they have not complained about the bad differential is because they don't go to Europe. They have not in the Shanahan era, and they don't get hard knocks. Shanahan would fucking quit if he got. I tell you, he would.
He'd quit.
He would quit. Like, this is like, I hear that if you hire a new coach, if you hire a new coach, that you're not allowed to get it. So guess what? I quit, and they just rehired me, so I'm a new coach. So you can't get it. He and Lynch hate that stuff so much, and I'm not saying it's an agreement, but it's like they get some things.
Yeah,
and 2 of them are no hard knocks, no Europe. Now they're going to have to play in Europe at some point.
Yeah,
but they're going to play Mexico City next year, I think, is what's going to happen.
Are they?
So that's going to be they kind of consider Mexico City their territory, and they did play there not too long ago. And Azteca Stadium has not been available, so I think it's going to be available leading into the World Cup. So I think they're going to get a game there, but that's okay, and that's better than going to Europe for them for sure.
No doubt. Where you at with Shanahan? Because I tend to look at him, and I make this analogy, and I don't think the analogy is great, but best I came up with. The Eagles had Andy Reid as their head coach for 14 years. Got really close to winning a Super Bowl, got to 1, lost to the Patriots, got to 4 straight NFC Championship games. And it didn't make him any less of a coach. Now he's got Patrick Mahomes on his squad. And now he's all of a sudden one of the greatest coaches of all time. That's the way it works. You get really good players. You kind of elevate who you are as a coach. And I don't know if Shanahan is that, but I do know when you have a really good coach, no matter what sport, you got to fight the impulse to say, okay, this isn't working. Let's do something new and try that. And usually that kind of leads you down the road of like, oh God, now we're just recycling guys because this guy isn't that. Like, people should remember who was here before Shanahan was here, like in between Harbaugh,
Jim Thomasula,
and Shanahan, Jimmy T. So where you at with him? Because my thing is like eventually, if you're not winning and the voice kind of starts getting stale, although football is different, there's so much turnover in the locker room every year. Where are you at with him? Because I still think he's a really good coach, and I know people want to fire him. People want to fire Steve Kerr. It's like, bro, he's won 4 championships. That's just what everybody wants. They want to fire guys after a week. Oh, this guy sucks. I know what he's doing. He's putting the wrong lineups. But where are you at with Shanahan?
I go with you on that. I think the Andy Reid model is very, very parallel here. And I think I wrote once, for Shanahan to wait as long as Andy Reid to win a Super Bowl, he's got like 10 more years. It's something like that.
Yeah.
And listen, it's going to be a long. If he goes 19 years without winning a Super Bowl, it's probably not going to work here.
Okay, it's time now. Look,
maybe 19.
We
18,
gave you a runway.
But I just don't think they can do better. And they've proven in the very recent past that they can do a lot worse. Who's their guy? It's like I say with Purdy. Who's your guy replacing him? Who's your guy replacing Shanahan? I mean, I can't name who a better candidate would be. I think they got really lucky to get him. I think they got really lucky to get him and John Lynch.
Yeah.
So if you get a new coach, the GM might not match with him. I think John Lynch would not stand for sticking around as GM if Kyle Shanahan is not the coach. Vice versa, if you get tired of Lynch, I don't think Shanahan would want another general manager.
Yeah.
You got yourself something here that's very valuable. They have proven they can get to 11, and they need to win one more game. And I don't know if it's this year, but I also believe that there was at least a tacit and maybe even an explicit acknowledgement by making the cuts they did, but then also making the big commitment to Purdy that you're going to stick with Shanahan and Lynch for a couple more years at least. They go 3-14, obviously. Who knows? But I doubt they're going 3-14. Yeah. They're probably going to make the playoffs. They're probably going to be back with a team. I don't think they're going to Super Bowl, but maybe they do. Who knows? You get in the tournament. Who knows? I just think he's a really good coach. And I think if he was if you judge it, I think Mina Kimes has said this. She's a Seattle Seahawks fan. They judge the guy by what the opponent would think. And if Kyle Shanahan was fired, Seattle Seahawks fans would freaking be thrilled by that.
Be happy.
And we've got now our new coach is Bobby Slowick, everybody. Or it's even Robert Saleh, who's very popular there.
Yeah.
But I'd take Kyle Shanahan with Robert Saleh versus Robert Saleh and Bobby Slowick or whoever else it would be. Yeah. So,
and not only what the fans would think, how long it would take him to get a phone call from somebody else going, hey, would you like to be
20 seconds.
20 seconds.
Guys would fire their coach to get Kyle Shanahan.
We're good.
I mean,
you're available now?
Yeah. Okay. Some good coaches would be fired. So all you can do is get to the Super Bowl twice in 7 years. I think we might sign up for that. And then they trade for Brock Purdy. But you think the Saints wouldn't take him? You think the freaking Cowboys wouldn't take him? You think it's the Miami Dolphins who have basically cut rate Shanahan right now? Sorry, Mike McDaniel.
Damn,
that was tough. That was
holy
tough.
cow!
Yeah. There are so many ways that could be worse for the 49ers than you have Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. You can blast them for not having great drafts before this last one. You can blast them for some interesting, let's say, coaching decisions with the clock, which I understand. I actually do understand because Shanahan coaches to protect the defense. He really does.
Yeah.
And it's hard, and he had Jimmy as his quarterback. I think he's a little bolder at the end of halves with Purdy because he's more confident that he won't make a mistake. I think with Jimmy, he wasn't worried he was going to throw the ball to the wrong team or do something that would screw up the defense. And defenses love that. They love an offensive-minded head coach who will coach to make sure the defense isn't exposed. Yeah. Doesn't put him. Now, that crappy special teams has done that, but that's a whole other thing. The way he calls a game is very conservative, but it's also to make sure that they wear down, the clock, they wear down the opponent, and puts the defense on a better chance to just dominate because they're resting while the offense is playing this kind of ball control game, and they're not put in the terrible, try to avoid turnovers. This is part of the reason why they're a good defense is that Shanahan coaches that way. And I will say the defense, I've been around many NFL teams that are coached by one side or the other. The head coach is either offensive or defensive minded, and the other unit does not respect him because he doesn't speak their language. He's seen to be coaching one side of Buddy Ryan, who I love.
But I was just going to say that.
So the offense, he could give
was it Kevin Gilbride?
Yeah, he could give a shit about literally. Yeah, he did not care. His defense, he cared about making things right for his defense. That's because that's the way he thought about the game. But Harbaugh, offensive guy, actually had a defensive mindset, and that's what tied the locker room together. Shanahan is very similar. I see some comparisons. I've already brought up Harbaugh a couple of times. You want the tough-minded, offensive-minded coach. That's what you want. Yeah. Who can speak to quarterbacks. Those guys last. Those guys, because they can win the confidence of the defense and they believe in the defense. Freaking Shanahan drafts defensive players every year. Those are the guys he builds with, and then he tries to scheme the offense. Now he's got McCaffrey and all these other guys, but those guys last. Andy Reid, one of those guys. Yep. I just really think it's not the only way you can go. Belichick clearly was away, but that was a defensive-minded guy who respected offense. You want to have somebody who's great at one side of the ball who respects the other side. Yeah. And I've seen so many times when guys just Buddy disliked offensive guys. Yeah, he didn't like them. They're all pussies. They're all pussies.
Think it was necessary. Just fucking let us play defense. We'll get a couple pick sixes. We'll win the game. Ourselves.
Who knows? He's long past. Again, he was great to me. But I he would literally tell me, like all these fucking pussies on offense can't do. Like it's like, you know what? You're coaching both sides here, buddy. Like,
what are you talking
yeah,
about?
yeah. So sorry, I'm swearing a lot here.
No,
This is-
please,
yeah, more,
please,
more. Yeah,
please.
yeah. I'm used to you're used to those clean Steve Kerr, Ray Ratto.
Yeah, that ain't this. It's interesting though, because I think Shanahan's a really good coach. I'm a fan. Doesn't mean I agree with everything he does, right? I didn't agree with him in the Super Bowl taking the ball first. I would never do that. I understood the logic, and he told me analytics basically said if you get it the third time, then you can score and it's over at that point. I was like, yeah, but I go, I got to know what's going to happen. I got to know what's going on. So like in the playoffs, what was it? No, it was 2 years ago against Green Bay. I didn't agree with how passive they were at the end of the first half. I thought they should have been a little more aggressive, but I understand his mindset. And to your point, he's protecting the defense. He said, I don't want them to get the ball back. I don't care what I do, but I don't want them to get the ball back. So there are certain things I'm like, I don't know if I don't agree with that. It doesn't mean I can't disagree with some things and still think overall big picture. Yeah, I want that guy coaching my football team. Like that's a really good football coach. I don't think there's ever going to be a coach out there that I look at and go, yeah, I agree with everything he does, unless it's me. And I ain't coaching anytime soon. And nobody wants me to coach anytime soon. Let me ask you about, because you talked about Shanahan and the draft and stuff. I talked to Steve about this. And for those that don't know, I'm talking about Steve Kerr, about what kind of voice he has, draft, what kind of voice he has, personnel, what kind of voice he has this. Has he ever been we're getting this guy. This is the guy I want. Steve's like, nah. He goes, I just want to coach. He goes, I don't.
He had that job. He didn't like it.
Yeah, exactly. And he goes, I don't think you can do it. He goes, I don't think you can do both and do it well. And he goes, I trusted Bob. He goes, I trust Mike. He goes, of course, I'm consulted on all this stuff, and we talk about certain things, but that's their job. That's not my job. My job is to coach the team, and that's what I want to do. I don't want to do that other stuff. How would you categorize with Shanahan? Is he of that ilk where he just wants to coach, or do you think he's more involved, which to me would be harder because there's so many different positions on a football team to try to figure out? Like, how involved do you think he is in the draft and free agency and how much? Because everyone just assumes, he's making the most money. He makes the calls. I don't know how much he wants to do it. I don't know him as well as Steve, obviously, but how do you view that?
Well, he does have the contractual power. Now that's different than Steve does.
This is true.
Literally has that in his contract.
Okay.
No personnel decision can be done that he does not approve of. But what is different, and it's again, maybe I should say it's what's similar. Yeah. So he doesn't want to be studying game film of Colgate versus whoever to make sure to find out that second tight end. So he has largely given John Lynch the personnel powers for that kind of stuff, personnel director, the scouts.
Yeah.
But what the overall effect, though, is because Kyle's very opinionated on all things once the player shows up. Yeah. So you want the players who will fit what he does, because if he doesn't like the player, he's going to go down to the scouting department and tell them, you guys got somebody that is not good. I never want this kind of player. Like he is Kyle's badass.
Yeah.
I like that about him.
Yeah.
He is a badass. He has people there on their toes. Like they are very aware that they want to make sure he is not given something he don't want.
Yeah.
So because of that, his coaches are invited into personnel meetings. In fact, have a huge say. So you have the personnel opinions, and it's merged with the coaches. Okay, you got those three guys. I like this guy because of this, and I like this type of player. And Kyle certainly jumps into that. And if it ever came down to it's got to be this guy or that guy, we don't know. Kyle makes that decision, given all the information from the scouting department, from personnel, from John Lynch. I'm sure if John Lynch felt super strongly about. Let's put it this way. I've heard it described this way, and it's not always the best. If they're both a no, then if one guy's a no and one guy's a yes, it's a no. They got to both be a yes. Now, you can't always do that.
Yeah.
And maybe the quarterback in 2020 might have been 2021, whatever that draft was, might have been the time that you really couldn't do it that way. But if Kyle wanted to make every draft pick, he has the contractual right to do it. But he didn't want to. He didn't want that going in. He wanted a partnership. He didn't want to be completely locked into the video on free agents, even all that kind of stuff. He will have his say. and they have to run it by him. But even Lynch was telling that story, I forget, on some show, some podcast, that a couple of years ago, the draft was, pick was coming up, and they was getting down to it, and this guy was available, and that guy could be traded. And like, Kyle, we need to know. Kyle, we need to know. That just is literal. Kyle has to sign off on everything.
You got it.
Because that's who was hired first. And I've heard, oh yeah, his boss, John Lynch. No. John Lynch is underneath Kyle Shanahan in the contractual setup. They're placed together in the kind of, general idea, because they are partners in this and they want to be partners. But the person who was hired first was Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
And then he hired, or the 49ers hired John Lynch at his direction as a general manager.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. I think like receivers and quarterbacks is what Kyle really, he'll drill down on that.
Yeah.
They will not take guys that he doesn't not looked at and does not believe in. His general philosophy on offensive line is the philosophy. They just doesn't believe in drafting offensive linemen that high unless they're perfect players. Penei Sewell, whatever. He just thinks you can get a guy in the 5th round who's going to end up being just as good as somebody you get in the later 1st round. He does believe that. Now, I happen to disagree with him on that, and I've told him that, but he's got every right to. That's what he believes, and they've won a lot of games without drafting a lot of offensive linemen in the 1st round, and the only one has been Mike McGlinchey. That's the only one.
Yeah.
So they traded a bunch of picks to get Trent Williams. It's just he doesn't believe in. We have to take a tackle in the 2nd round just because that's what you do. He doesn't no. I can get a guy in the 4th round who's going to be just as good, just because you say he's good. He's up on these draft things. That's not what I believe. That's what he does. I think at some point you do need to take him, but that's his belief. So that's the, it's not like John Lynch could go, no, we're taking a tackle in the 2nd round. Like that does not happen. Kyle gets his way on the stuff that he cares about. And then the other stuff he kind of sees, like Lynch is going to draft defense. Like those are Lynch's. That's what he loves.
It's the surest bet in the draft. The Niners will draft the defensive lineman in the first 2 rounds.
It's also, Kyle loves.
It's not a bad thing either.
No, Kyle loves defensive line too.
Yeah.
Because what does he hate to go up against as offensive coordinator? Yeah. Dominant defensive lines. Yeah. He has said this, like you control a game with defensive line more than any other position if you're great. Yep. And if you're terrible, as we saw with the 49ers at the end of last year, you get run over without a good defensive line.
Yep.
So he, other than quarterback, they've proven it. John Lynch isn't going to disagree. Who was his favorite player? It's Nick Bosa. Like it's absolutely Nick Bosa. So you have your little specialties, but because Kyle Shanahan has that contracted right, they do go through him, and he is making the calls. At the end of the day, again, if it's the 4th round and it's probably going to be a linebacker, he's not saying no, it's got to be this linebacker. Yeah. But his guys have a say. Like his coaching staff definitely has to say. And why wouldn't you want to do it that way? Yeah. Because you end up drafting guys you don't like, the coaching staff, and then you're messed up because that guy's going to be like, I don't like this guy. I want to go. No, I want to go another guy. So it's just the way they set this up. I think it's the right way. I do think.
So do I.
The coach having the final say, as long as he doesn't screw you up. And there's some coaches who screw you up, but I don't think Shanahan screws up the process.
Yeah, and you look at when they were their best defensively, it was Bosa, it was Armstead, it was Buckner, it was Ford. Look at the Eagles this year.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like rotating Georgia Bulldogs that they just keep throwing at everybody.
That's a funny.
Which was it's basically the Eagles. Who are we taking this year? Who's Georgia got? Let's get them. Get them. Defensive linemen, good. We're good to go. Let's go ahead and get what do they got? 3 of them on the front.
Carter, Davis, and
Smith. Is it Nolan Smith? I believe it is.
That's right. That's right. And they got Nakobe Dean too.
He's the linebacker.
Yeah.
But it's just give me a bulldog. Yep. Give me a fucking bulldog defender.
Yep.
I don't care who it is. Is he good? I don't know. He's not even draft eligible. Get him anyway. I don't care. Go Red Auerbach, junior eligible. We'll take him. We'll throw him out there. Like I think that's the right way to go about it, and that's who they are. All right, biggest concern for the 49ers this year. For me, it's the offensive line. Because the concern would be, I like Pooney. I'm not sure who else they have other than Williams. But Williams, even when healthy, you can see there's some slippage there. And can he stay healthy? And they go from like a pretty good offensive line to like, ooh, they're not very good when one guy gets hurt.
They don't have a Jalen Moore anymore.
Yeah, I know. So that to me is the there are other positions. I mentioned wide receiver. I mentioned a safety. And we'll see the defensive line come together, but I'm a little less concerned with that. Like, I think if they have enough bodies, they'll be okay. But offensive lines, when I look at it and go, boy, if they, if Williams stays healthy and a couple guys pan out, okay, but a couple guys got to pan out and Williams has to stay healthy. So what about for you?
I agree. I think that's the least talented unit they've got. But also, we go back to the Shanahan thing. I don't think he thinks you need to get stack that with talent. Jake Brendel at center. I mean, I don't think he's very good. But who was Brock Purdy playing golf with when he heard that he was got the new contract? Jake Brendel. Was it? So I think his job's pretty safe. Matt Hennessy could play center, I guess. Like, they have options, but I'm not sure about left guard. Like, there are major questions, and obviously no Jalen Moore to back up, because Jalen Moore played pretty well when Trent went down.
Yeah,
Trent goes down again. I don't know who that tackle is going to be, but because of the finagling they do and the way they play the offense line, I think defense line is more of a question mark. Because again, I'll go back to the Shanahan thing. If you have a defense line that's getting pushed around, then Fred Warner's a worse player. Yeah. And then even if Nick Martin's pretty good, he's a worse player. And that secondary gets exposed. Just giving up, like, it's very PFF and analytics to say running game doesn't matter. It's all got to throw. No, there's a reason why coaches run the ball. Because if you have dominance run the ball, you set up everything else. Yeah. And if you can't stop running the ball, you're dead. And that's what the 49ers were last year. They could not stop the running game. Could not. Now, then Josh Allen will pull the ball out and he'd throw it, and okay, it looks like Josh Allen's having a great year. It's because they could not stop the run. Yeah. That's the way I think about hitters and hitting the fastball. There's some Giants right now who cannot hit the fastball. Yeah. So they look terrible against the curveball, but it's not because they can't hit the curveball. It's because they kind of load up against the fastball. Yeah. And I think that's Willie Adames' problem right now. I think the same thing with defense. You can fake a pretty decent pass defense, I think. Mm-hmm. Decent. You cannot fake a run defense. Either you have it or you don't. And let's see if they have it. That's where I don't know. I think that's really talent mostly. Offensive line, they do this whole thing, they do the outside zone, and like there's different ways you can kind of like, okay, we want movement, we can scheme it up. I believe this is what Shanahan thinks. Defensive line, you can't just scheme it up. Like, you need hosses. Yeah. And I'm not sure that they got them. And like, I believe in depth, because again, even if these guys are good, they could get hurt. And then who do you have? I keep arguing that point. And again, I have people push back on me. That's fine. But how many defensive ends have they burned through over the years? Because guys get hurt. Bosa can get hurt. And then where are you? I just think.
Fucked.
Yeah, I mean, they are in serious trouble.
Basically.
Same thing with Warner. I mean, they were a very different team without Greenlaw. Yeah. So they're not going to have Greenlaw. I mean, he might be hurt. Who knows? But you're not going to have him at all. So, and you can't just say Nick Martin's another Dre Greenlaw. You got to see this. Yeah. So I'd say front seven defensively is where I would like. I really want to see that. If Michael Williams is great, that changes it. Well, let's see. Yeah. I just think the talent drain there it's just over. You mentioned over the years, Buckner, Armstead, Javon Hargrave, you can say up or down, whatever, but he was talented. Elliott Collins, like they're all gone. Yep. And replaced by, I don't know at this point. Like, again, making sure rookies I don't know. They could have had other people. Now, they really wanted Joey Bosa. They thought they were going to get Joey Bosa. They didn't get him. That's okay. It's a dollar thing. He's already hurt. So, like, there's some things. Yeah. Dre Greenlaw, they really wanted him. They didn't have the early bid on him. They tried to get him back. They couldn't get him. He might end up being hurt. Some of this, I understand. You're taking bets, certainly on injured players. And obviously, injured players who've been injured in the past are more likely to get hurt in the future than guys who haven't been injured. And those guys have been injured. But I kind of like bodies there. There's part of it. Like, injuries build up. Leonard Floyd was healthy last year. And they let him go. They didn't just let him go. They cut him. Yeah. They incurred a dead money. Like, there's just I have some questions about what they did, and I just think it does make them pretty thin at a very important position.
Yeah. You can't fake the defensive line. You can't fake the funk. I don't even know what that means. I heard it somewhere. I thought it was pretty funny.
Fred Funk?
Fred Funk. Wow. I love Fred Funk. The guy was incredible. I don't know what his finishing move was, but no, that was Terry Funk. Fred Funk's a golfer, right?
Fred Funk golfer.
Terry-
He was
Terry-
the one that played
Terry-
the skins
Terry-
game with Anakin.
Yes,
Tiger.
Terry
Yeah.
Funk's the WWE wrestler.
Okay, I don't know that one.
You don't know Terry Funk?
I'm not a
Yeah,
wrestling
you got
thing.
me there. I was like,
Yeah.
Funk. I go, I remember that. Oh yeah, it's a golfer, wrestler. Two different.
Slightly different. Slightly
different fan bases.
Slightly different.
Slightly
different things.
I think. All right, let me ask you a few kind of non-Warrior, non-Niner, non-local questions. Where you at now that Pete Rose has been reinstated? Hall of Famer? No.
I think he's a Hall of Famer. Again, I understand.
Well, he
why.
is a Hall of Famer.
Is he going to get in?
Would you vote for him?
I would vote for him. Yeah.
Does he get in?
I don't think he's going to get in
Okay.
because that's one of the interesting parts about this is, people have railed against sports writers for keeping guys out, and all you sports writers, and sports I've never had to vote on Rose.
Yeah.
But with Bonds too, the former players on these committees are tougher on these guys than the writers
really
are.
are.
Like, do you realize they are way tougher? And so, like, to see, I don't even know who these guys are. I mean, Tom Glavine or whatever, these guys who are on this committee, I think they're going to be tough on Rose. I really do. Like, you bet on the game that we're chosen here to protect. So I think it's going to be tough for Rose. I think this is kind of like his Hall of Fame right now. This is it.
Yeah.
Getting this thing from the commissioner, whether it was Trump or whatever, I don't know.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
I'm happy for the family. He did some bad stuff, but I am I'm like Ratto on this. It's like he was a great player. So he's a great player, all-time hits list.
you should never say that with full confidence.
I'm
like
in
Ratto
Alameda,
on
though.
this.
I feel
like you should never.
I'm in Alameda. I feel like I got a bow to the Ratto throne or something.
We all bow to Ray Ratto. You kidding me?
Got to go once you through city limits, you have to take some kind of Ratto.
Oh, there's like hundreds of Rattos in Alameda too.
Ratto
like
Street, right?
If you fuck with one of them, you got them all at your door. There's like Rattos. Like oh, honey, there must be 30 Rattos out there.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Tom.
They're all over the place. You
but
kidding me?
I just like he's all-time hit leader.
Yeah.
I voted for Bonds every time on the PED stuff. I voted for Clemens every time. I don't vote anymore. I got sick and tired of the debate of it. But I think I would say so. I will say, and I say this even with once eating dinner next to his table in Hollywood once. When I was much younger, I was having dinner at the Palm Steakhouse.
Yep.
And his table was the most obnoxious table I've ever
really?
been. Like you wanted to call somebody over, but it was Pete Rose.
Yeah.
So of course they weren't going to do anything. It was the most obnoxious guy.
Just loud
and like wanting to be loud. They want to be
yeah.
loud and they want to be just screaming and they want to, just. I can't even remember. It was just the most obnoxious thing I've ever been around, and it just happened to be Pete Rose, shockingly. So another time, we were at a steakhouse in Dallas in the playoffs. What year was that? Whatever year that was, and
shoot, I can't even remember.
They had.
Okay, now I know.
What year that was? Yeah, I can't even remember now. It was the Western Conference Finals, 22, right? Yeah.
Was it 22?
And I went to steakhouse. Yeah. The very popular, what is that? The Bob Steakhouse, very famous.
Okay.
And the owners had he was a member of fraternity way back, the SMU fraternity, or whoever it was. They had a fraternity function in the main room that they just screamed the entire night. And we're in the next room over. We can't hear. I'm having dinner with Ann Killian and JD.
Yeah.
And it was the most. You could not hear each other talk, and we were like, "Can you do something?" Oh, no, it's the owners' fraternity. They can't. It's just so you're basically eating a good steak meal with the next room. It's 70 fraternity boys screaming the entire time. So that was the worst. So but Pete Rose was second.
Yeah. The one thing I would say, and I don't mind him getting in. Like I just don't care anymore. It was like the same with the steroid debate. I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I just like whatever. Put him in. Don't put him in. Don't care. But it does bother me when people use as part of their argument to put Pete Rose in that baseball is in bed with the gambling outfits now, whether it be FanDuel, DraftKings, whatever, and they've embraced sports wagering. I'm like, yeah, they have, and they're making money off sports wagering now. You still can't fucking bet on your own sport, and you can't bet on your own team. Every sport says, look, if you want to bet NBA, go ahead and bet if you want to. You can't bet on the NBA. You can't bet on the WNBA. You can't bet on Summer League. You can't bet on anything that has to do with the NBA. It's like Gordon Gekko, insider trading. They don't want any of that. NFL can bet. they just can't bet on NFL stuff. Calvin Ridley found that out. You can't bet 3-team parlays when you're sitting out watching games. So baseball is you can bet, just not bet. You can't do any baseball wagering. And you certainly can't bet on your own team. You certainly can't bet against your own team. So
and a manager makes it worse for me too.
Yes, that part of the argument, I'm just like, no, just because baseball has embraced gambling has nothing to do with this argument. He bet on his own team, maybe against it. And I always made the argument that if you didn't bet every game on your own team, then some games are more important than others.
You might use your bullpen. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
No, I totally agree with all that. And there's incredible shadiness with all that. But I guess I would argue, like, he wouldn't be the first shady person who was put in the Hall of Fame. We know there's many.
No, but I would argue that those shady things that happened didn't affect the outcome of games.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, because people always say, well, what about there's murderers, there's rapists, there's people that beat people. I'm like, yeah, outside of the baseball game, that's way worse than betting on baseball. Way worse. But we're talking about a universe that's just baseball related.
Competition.
And murder isn't as serious as betting on your own team in the context of baseball itself. So when people would say, well, there's worse characters in there, I go, yeah, in the context of society at large, but in the context of baseball, there's nothing worse than turning baseball or your sport into the WWE. And that's what Pete Rose
I agree. That's why I think he's not going to get in. I really do. I think he's not going to get in. But I almost like break it off of when you're a player versus when you're retired. And he was retired as a manager.
Yeah.
But he's not getting in as a manager. Again, I don't think it's I don't think it's anything's clear cut on this one. But I really do like, what did you do to the game? You were the all-time leading hits leader.
Yeah.
You meant a lot. You won World Series. What, 2 World Series? 4 World Series, wherever it was. Important to your teammates. I'd put you in. Like
I'm okay with that.
I'd put Bonds in. I'd put whatever.
Yeah.
Now, if he was gambling as a player, which he probably was, there's just no proof of it, then maybe there's a different discussion. If ever I thought like he went into a playoff game and it was like there was a question, obviously, but Shoeless Joe got the same whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just at the time, even at the time, I was like, he's obviously a Hall of Famer. Now he might not be in. He might not get a plaque. But if I had to vote for it, is Pete Rose a Hall of Famer versus Joe Mauer? I'd say Pete Rose is a Hall of Famer, right? I mean, Joe Mauer's in. Obviously, didn't gamble or anything. I'm just saying, look at the people that are in right now. I'd put him in. But,
I mean, I'm totally, again, I'm totally fine with that. And then people say, well, it's the history of baseball. I'm like, well, he's represented in the museum.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like Pete Rose isn't there. He's like persona non grata. He's there. He just doesn't have a bust, and he's not like enshrined, but his accomplishments are all enshrined. So that's the historical part for me. But it's an honor to be one of the guys to be a member of the Hall of Fame. But that being said, again, I'd be cool with him in. And there's just certain arguments that
it's
I'm
such
like,
a
you can't
by Manfred to say, oh, you know what?
Yeah,
because a permanent fan, but he's dead,
it?
so does like such a cheat man. But Manfred, he's a lawyer. It's such it's so lawyerese that that part I dislike. I do like that his daughter was happy about it. You know, like I appreciate that, and whether he's ever in or not. That's why I was like, this is kind of like him getting the Hall of Fame, like this right here, because I don't think these senior committees are going to go, yeah, you know what? I don't like this guy. I more than not, we hear the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Definitely for the PED guys. They're not getting in with senior committees. They are not, unless those committees are redone drastically, or it's, Barry's, whether, it's his guys. I don't know who are his guys. I don't know who his teammates are.
I don't know who his guys are.
There weren't that many. So, Marvin Bernard, I don't know, but I don't think Marvin Bernard's getting on a senior committee.
I don't think so.
It's the only one I could think of. Who the hell would be a Barry guy? But Bobby Bonilla, no, I don't think.
Well,
Bonilla
Marvin had to take a bad route to get to the senior committee. He'd be there.
Oh wow!
Hey, look, Marvin can take a bad route. Okay, I like Marvin. He can take a bad route. I think everybody knows that. Am I telling secrets here? No, I'm not telling secrets here. No, I don't. The only problem I have with the steroid guys, and I would put them into, I don't even care. Again, I don't care, is that they forced other players to make decisions that they shouldn't have had to make to stay in the game to make a living.
Yeah.
Like, and it was a trickle down theory. There were guys who were like, well, shit, I could be in AAA or I can take juice and hit 22 home runs and get paid. And then, I've always said someone should ask Barry and just say, hey, you're in the Hall of Fame tomorrow, but give back that $90 million extension that you signed after you started taking flaxseed oil. And you know what? We'll just go. I doubt many of those guys would give up their money for the Hall of Fame or for the accolades that they would receive, because if I remember correctly, it was like 4 years, 90 million he got, and that was after he was. Do we still have to say allegedly on the
unknowingly, Tom?
Exactly. I always used to say Barry should get more credit for hitting home runs because the ball had to escape the it had to escape the gravitational pull of his head to get out of the ballpark. It was like amazing. It was like,
plus it probably went faster because it was attracted by the gravitational pull.
Gone. You could see it burning up in the atmosphere as it was like leaving the.
His head's smaller now, by the way.
I know. Of course it is. He's smaller now. You kidding me? Dude's like training mini schnauzers and riding bikes. Of course he's smaller. It's like, wow. Wonder how that happened. Like, it's just shocking.
Just a coincidence.
But
Tommy.
Again, I don't blame those guys for doing what they did when they did. I blame baseball for saying, you know what, we're going to ban this, but we're going to have no test for it. Yeah. It's like, I always made the comparison, like no guns on the airplanes, but we're not going to have metal detectors. We're just going to hope you don't do it. Tom. It's like, what? How'd you sneak that on here? We don't have a fucking metal detector. Yeah. That's how you snuck that on there. So when baseball said that, but it still was illegal. It's just they didn't have a way to test for it. So it's really baseball. And I guess the one that tips the scales for me, Tim, in terms of like voting him in and not being okay with them being in, is Bud Selig's in.
Yep.
And he knew. Yep. And he tried to say he didn't know. And I hated his press conference when he said, I had writers come up to me all the time saying, we didn't know. How were you supposed to know? I'm like, you fucking blind? How do you not know? Yeah. I mean, it's like the Alps of acne on their back, and their heads are massive, and their traps are massive. And you didn't notice these guys?
And they're all hitting 70 home runs now.
To the opposite field. They're just like, pop, and the ball's going out of the yard. Like, what are you talking about? We didn't know. How are you supposed to? So when Bud Selig got in, I was like, all right, screw it. Put all those guys in. Because if Bud's in, they all deserve to be in. Because Bud is as if not more complicit than anybody.
I agree. And that's the weird thing is he was complicit while loving the history of his guy Henry Aaron.
Exactly.
I mean, so that was this weird, because I was around him during the chase and he was definitely not loving that Bonds was going to break that record. But there's other guys in there who took steroids who have been in the Hall of Fame. We just don't know about it.
Yeah.
So some of it is just a practical part of it. I when I was voting, I took a very practical, maybe someone would say it's too easy, but like I just said, if he did not take steroids, would he be in? Yes. So I'm putting him in. Now, because other guy, he wasn't the only person taking steroids at that time. I don't think McGwire would have been anywhere near a Hall of Fame kind of player if he didn't take steroids. I did not vote for him.
I agree.
I think Manny Ramirez is kind of borderline, but I wouldn't vote for him because I just think it was too borderline. Clemens, I voted for because he won like 3 Cy Youngs before there's any suspicions.
Sammy Sosa's a no.
Sosa's a no. Palmero's a no.
Yep.
It just, to me, that was just a really easy way. Like Piazza, suspicions, but never really proven. So I'll put him in, best hitting catcher of all time with nothing. Like I can't say I look like he took steroids.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So other guys who probably didn't look like it and probably did take it. So I just, that was a very easy line for me to make and put Bonds over. Bonds was easily over it because he was almost a Hall of Famer before he got to the Giants.
Yeah.
Like what, he had 480 home runs with the Pirates. Some
People
crazy.
Forget how good his stats.
Incredible.
You look at his OPS, like 1,000, 9,000. It's like, oh my God.
The guy was an incredible player. Just as the statistical stuff was beginning to, like, if it had been another 10 years, he would have been, like, before he was a Giant, he would have been the greatest player in baseball. It just wasn't really understood at that point. It was him and Griffey, right? It was him and Griffey and a few others.
Those were the two, though.
I think Griffey was definitely considered to be the superior player at the time. Got hurt, but I think you go back and look at Bonds, a better player, just better hitter, on base, all those other things. Griffey was incredible. People are going to get mad at me for saying that, but I think at the time, I think.
Well, I mean, center fielder versus left fielder.
Yeah, that too.
Right. I mean, you factor in the defense, and I've had this discussion with people, and I'm not sure where I land on this. Who would you rather have? And because Shohei Ohtani is just a one of one.
Yeah.
Right. People comparing to Babe Ruth. I'm like, yeah, well, Babe Ruth pitched and then he hit.
Mm-hmm.
Shohei's like hitting and pitching. God, it'd be incredible if the Angels had a guy.
You know
like
what?
that.
The Angels, yeah.
Really,
I mean, listen, I'm sure they'd
ever
win.
get somebody like that, Tim.
I'm sure they'd win.
It'd be incredible.
I'm sure they'd win.
Like who's worth more, Shohei Ohtani or Willie Mays, who didn't pitch, but his defense is out in center field every game he plays. And I was like, I that's what I do a lot. I pose questions and I debate myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who are you asking?
I debate myself.
Here's what I do.
I debate myself.
I wander around with
around
with a rabbit, and then I ask the rabbit.
Exactly what I do. So you pitch every 5 days,
yep.
But when you're pitching, you control the game.
You're the
more
most
than
important
anybody.
person. Yeah.
But Willie Mays, out in center field, never know how many balls you're going to get hit on that day, but you're out there every single day. As far as the hitting and the base running and all that, we'll just call that a wash just to make the argument easier. But what's worth more? Like a really good top-end pitcher one every 5 days, or maybe the best center fielder of all time in center field every single day?
I'm never going to not pick Willie Mays in any discussion like that. But that's because I just grew up. When I grew up, it was Willie Mays, and that's it. Like there's no discussion on anything. That was over Aaron. That was over Musial. That was over everybody. So the fact that Ohtani leads a team to World Series championship without even pitching is might lead you to believe that Ohtani is pretty way up there again. Again, I mean, I'm sure if he was on the Angels, they would have won World Series. I'm sure of that. But,
really?
And man, can you imagine putting him together with Trout?
How could you lose? How could you lose? Too bad Trout didn't pitch too.
Yeah, no, that would have ruined everything.
Please,
but
you're ruining a very nice day.
The fact that I'm trying to get out of here. The fact that Ohtani has done all this without pitching and is in this conversation, and he's still got years to go, is just incredible. Like, who else would you put in that conversation? You would maybe Griffey at his prime, Bonds at his prime. Nobody else. I mean, Trout, I guess, at his prime. No, there's another shot to Tommy there.
Jeez, it just hurts so bad.
Yeah.
Really
I can't even remember who's that third baseman they give all the money to. Is terrible.
Don't please.
Rendon. Yeah, that's another one. Right up there.
I wasn't going to give it to him.
Yeah, way up there, way up that list. Rendon or Willie Mays. I'm sure that's a discussion.
No, I don't know about it. Everybody keeps sending me little gifts of him in a bobblehead, and he's sitting in a wheelchair. It's going to be his bobblehead.
That's
I'm like,
good.
bro,
I like
come on.
that. I like that.
Give me one of those.
But Tommy,
I go, come on, don't do that. Give me one of those. Those are great.
Look, baseball's not that important to him, Tom. It's just not that. Like, people have to get a life, and then Rendon talk like that. It's like, what?
Look, FP Santangelo is who I like a lot. Told me, because I was like bitching about Rendon a couple years ago. I think FP was he was coming on after us, and he goes, Tommy, he's like, I know him, like, I was in Washington. He's really a good guy and everything. And I go, you know how much good that does for me? Fuck all.
Yeah.
I go, I'm an Angel fan. Yeah. I would like you to play. In fact, if you're not going to play, I would like you to try to play. I don't want your best hit to be on an A's fan to the left jaw when he was walking off the field. Like, come on. Like, you just took, and I'm not blaming him for signing it. I'm blaming him for being difficult. I'm blaming him for not trying to get back. I'm blaming him for, like, not caring. It's like, bro, you make that type of money, you got to at least try to care. And if not, I always tell athletes this. If you don't care, you don't want, just cut the contract right there, give all the money back, and walk away. I'd have a lot more respect for you because I'm done. I can't do it anymore. They try to straddle this line. Well, I got $100 more million left. but you're not giving the team anything. They sign you to that contract, and if you're trying, like if you give every ounce of effort to get back and you can't get back, you deserve every bit of that money. But if you don't, then you don't deserve any of it because you're not trying at this point. And that's the feeling I got with Rendon. Like he just doesn't care, doesn't want to be there, would rather be with his kids. Fine, I don't give a shit. If I can quote Alec Baldwin and Glenn Ross, great father, who gives a fuck? Great husband, go fuck off. You know, it's whatever. I don't care. Nobody cares. Either you're closing or you're not. And Rendon ain't closing. He ain't doing shit with the Angels.
This got dark.
I can't believe you guys fucking started me down this goddamn road that I got to deal watching with this fucking guy. So,
but the good thing is,
I feel like fucking Lee Elia now. This motherfucker, you kidding?
The really good thing is Artie Moreno is such a good owner.
He's been fantastic. Ever since he lowered beer prices, it's all gone downhill.
Good thing he did. That's the thing. Never lower beer prices, and maybe things turn out. That was it.
I was happy. I was like, "Oh, this guy gets it." I was like, "Oh, he doesn't get it." Oh God, he doesn't get it.
Wow. We turned Tommy into a maniac there for a little bit. That's awesome.
You triggered me as everybody. I hate that word, but anyway, it bothers me when athletes do that because I always say, look, if you don't like it, you got a choice. Nullify your contract. Go.
Yep.
Just walk away. But don't try to get the money and then not give the effort.
Yeah, give me half effort. Yeah.
All I need is like go to rehab. Act like you want to be there. Work your ass off. And if the body doesn't cooperate, it doesn't cooperate. You don't owe the team more than that. You can only owe the team what the body has to offer. But don't want the money and say I don't really want to be here too. That
well, that's
really
part of. I mean,
me.
I wonder about this whole Dodger thing. Now they got great players, and I love Mookie. Mookie Betts, my favorite player. Freddie Freeman, great player. Shohei, obviously, But part of this getting the top, paid player. Like I'm not a Blake Snell guy. If you listen to my podcast, I didn't love him when he was a Giant. Even when he was pitching great, I go, there's a price you pay for Blake Snell.
Yeah.
I knew Buster was never going to be in the bidding for him ever. Yeah. Just you're not sure if you can. I just don't love the accumulation of like we got so much money. We're going to go get the guy who wants the most money. Now, I think players should always get the most money. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but at some point, if you collect every single one, mostly the pitchers who just want the most money, you get a bunch of pitchers who aren't that good. Yeah, I really feel that, and that's where Posey and I could guess along with him in a lot of ways this offseason because I could guess what he liked, and it's Chapman, it's Adamit, guys who post, guys who play, and if you respect that. You're not a Blake Snell guy.
No, neither am I. I was just laughing at Ogden because I said, "Hey, I have another beer," and he tried to go in the door and it was closed. It was locked. You're gonna have to come back out. That way. Well, that's team building.
Yep.
And I always said that about the Warriors when they had Clay and Steph and Draymond, Iguodala, Sean Livingston, Bogut, all those guys. I said, not only are these guys super talented, they fit together, and I think that's what people miss when they look at their teams. They think you just collect talent and put it all together and it's going to work, but it's got to fit somehow.
Well, Kuminga thinks the perfect, goes to tying this up in a bow. It's like, it's just not just stats that you roll out there. It's how things go together. Exactly. And I was talking to a guy a couple of days ago, and he was talking about soccer, and he's doing something with soccer stats and soccer fandom. And he wondered if it was applicable to the NBA. He goes, yeah. And I said, I can see that because they're both flow sports.
Yep.
And he's like, oh, that's great, flow sports. I go, but I see it as flow sports because one person does affects the other. And if one guy's high, he pulls up others. And one guy's low, he pulls down others. And it's more so in those two sports because they're continuous. NFL is snap, run into each other. Yeah. I'm not sure what the left guard was supposed to do there. And did the inside linebacker take I'm not sure.
Yeah.
In the NBA and in soccer, you could kind of tell. You could kind of tell the way a player influences and how everything else ripples from there. And what he was doing in his Premier League soccer and what in the NBA, there was some, and it's flow. It's the flow of it. And baseball's not that, and the NFL's not like that. And I think soccer and the NBA are kind of, you can feel somebody's stats might be this here. It's not what the impact is on the game, though. The impact. That's why I like the plus minus. People make fun of me for the plus minus, but it's the only stat I know that takes the totality of a game and the score into total account. And I kind of want to know that. Is the guy on the floor when the team is winning, or is he not? Yeah. And plus minus is a big part of that for me.
Yeah, to me, it's just it's a stat. Like any other stat. I mean, you got to rely on other guys for the plus minus. Like if your other guys suck, you could actually play pretty decent. And you could be a minus. But I think over time, there's a reason Andre Iguodala had 6 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, was a plus 18. But he did it over and over and over. And then after a while, you're like, oh shit, there's something to this. Like he
well, it also takes defense to account. And again,
absolutely does.
There's rebounds and blocks. Blocks and steals are not defense, as you know. They're parts of defense. But some of the best guys on defense do not do that because they just stay in front of their guy.
Allen Iverson had a bunch of steals.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't consider him a defensive player.
I wouldn't do that. And I just there isn't another box score stat that gets defense in there like that. Again, you have to take it. It's relative. Everything's relative. But so's points, so's rebounds, so's assists. So anyway, that's just my plus minus.
I agree. No, I totally agree with you. All right, let's get.
You know who likes plus minus?
Who?
That coach of Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. So, and I agree with him on that. Absolutely. Like it's just something to look at. Like this guy scored whatever plus 16. Okay, that's I need to go back and look at why was that plus 16. So.
No, I agree with you. Again, to me, the most important thing when I look at a box score, the first stat I look at is shot attempts. Mm-hmm. Who had the most shot attempts?
Possession game.
Because you can't score without a shot attempt. And how do you get more shot attempts? Turn them over. Offensive rebounds. And those are the two things where you really like. Oklahoma City always has more shot attempts than most. Well, not always. I say always, but like mostly because they are number one in the league in the regular season at turning you over, and number one in the league at not turning it over. That's like 6 shot attempts, like right there, and that's why they're as good as they are. All right, let's move on. I appreciate hanging in there with me. Let's go to.
Is it nighttime yet?
Not yet. I got to ask you this: favorite or most memorable press conference?
Oh my goodness!
You've ever been to? Because you've been to a lot of them.
Yeah. We've had some great ones.
So whether it's coaches, boxing, you've been involved. I mean, you've been involved in everything.
God,
So what's the most memorable press conference that you've been to, and why?
Got to say Al Davis. I got to say
is that
at the end,
overhead projector.
Well, overhead projector is one. One of them. Yeah,
that
was another one. So the overhead projector was the Hugh Jackson firing. I can't remember of Cable. So that was overhead projector. Incredible. Like here's our first part, and so we're asking, and he goes, "No, that's the second part." We're like going, "Second part?" Second part of this press conference, and then they wheel out the projector. Incredible drama.
I thought that was a Lane Kiffin one.
No, Kiffin was confused. That was Hugh Jackson, Tom Cable, because he wanted to rip Tom Cable. And that's the great.
The Tom Cable was the overhead projector.
Yes, because he wanted to prove how bad Cable was, I believe. The Lane Kiffin one was another one, and the Kiffin thing was, but the great part with me with the Kiffin one was they're hiring Kiffin. This is when they're hiring Kiffin.
Hiring Kiffin.
So the overhead projector might be when they were firing Kiffin.
And that was right over here, Alameda.
Oh, it's all in Alameda, Harvard Bay Parkway, baby. These Al ones are incredible. The Kiffin hiring one. So he does it because it was Al, because he was in a wheelchair. He didn't want anyone to see. So literally, we were not allowed into the auditorium until Al was there, and then the doors would open and we come in. But that meant they'd hold the presser. But then Al would have to stay out there because he didn't want to see that he had the wheelchair out. So you could go talk to him afterwards. So this is Lane Kiffin. It's clear, like, you hired Lane Kiffin. What the hell? Like, why don't you hire Sean Payton? Why don't you there were these other candidates that theoretically he could have hired. This is he's going through a run of not great coaches, Norv Turner, So the great thing with Al was afterwards he would stay there, and it was great that he would do it, but also he couldn't do it because he just didn't want anybody to see him leave. So the post Al pressers were incredible, post presser Al, and he's getting mad at the questions. Well, it's a bunch. Nancy Gay, the group. It was a bunch of us, so it's 10 or 11, and then. Like he was so mad at Nancy, he literally reached over and turned off her tape recorder. It's like literally on the thing. Yeah. What? You're done. Turns off her tape recorder. And then another person, he's like mad at, he's like whatever. And I think he literally turned my tape recorder off too. I think he did. So, but I'm still asking questions. We're still there. People are taping, like it's a live thing. And so I started asking, like, is it disappointing to you that you're not getting the top candidates who want this job anymore? Like, he got really mad about that because it was true.
Yeah.
Literally, Sean Payton was assistant at the Cowboys and would not take the interview. And that's, I'm sure that's very disappointing to Al. Everyone knew that he was going to be a head coach and it was going to be a good one. And so he started getting mad at me and like saying, "Oh, I don't like these, what are you saying? What are you saying?" And he just all of a sudden, because I'm asking this line of questioning, he turns to me and goes, like, "I bet you don't even know who Deng Xiaoping is." Literally, like, Sean Payton, I bet you don't even know who Deng Xiaoping is. Like, whoa, okay. In any other world, you'd go, I have no idea what happened, but it's Al Davis. So I was kind of ready for this. Yeah. It's like, well, Al, I think that's the general secretary during the Tiananmen Square, riot. Yeah. He goes, okay, but you don't even know your own culture. That was the great thing. You don't even know. You're like, Al, okay, I'm Japanese American, not Chinese American. It's like, Al, you're gonna kill me now. It's like, Al, I'm not gonna kill you. But literally, that all happened. That literally all happened in a post presser. Everybody's tape recorders out, but not Nancy Gay and mine because he turned ours off. It's like, it's just incredible. And just then the next questions are probably about, who do you want your quarterback to be? It's just like, who do you want your You guys went from Tiananmen Square to who's the quarterback? It wasn't even a lead up. It was, I bet you don't even know who Deng Xiaoping is. It's like, what? You got the country wrong. Get everything wrong. Oh, God. But kudos to you for nailing that one. Yeah, I mean, it was like, okay, I kind of do know who that is. It was like, but that was like, again, Al, I mean, the people still joke about it because another presser, he was mad. And so every time we get the microphone, I'd ask a question. Tim Kawakami, the Mercury News, who? Every time, like 5 times he did that because just to tweak me. But we had that. Like, again, he was annoyed with me at times, but we had we did have a relationship because like when the Raiders were in LA and I was covering the Rams, I kind of knew him because he knew John Shaw, who was running the Rams. Yep. So I kind of so we had a little pre-existing relationship. So I could take it, and he could get he's one of those guys who didn't mind. At the end, he hated it, but didn't mind a little give and take. Yeah, a little bit of like, oh yeah, and like little New York, like he liked Lowell Cone, like a little, little give back a little bit. But that was the Deng Xiaoping was the moment I will never forget that. Like, he just asked me who Deng Xiaoping was, and we were asking him about Lane Kiffin. I mean, this is all time. When was the Singletary presser? I Want Winners was like the next week. Like, literally, really incredible. These moments are happening. It was either the overhead projector or the late Deng Xiaoping. One of those was and then I Want Winners was the next. Like, what world do we live in? This is incredible. This is great stuff. And that was my question. Like, that I Want Winners. Yeah. He's looking. You see him. He's looking just to his right. It's me asking, because I asked him like what happened with Vernon Davis, because that's when he threw Vernon Davis off the field, and so he went off in the whole thing. That was I Want Winners, because he didn't want anyone who, because Vernon had gotten a 15-yard penalty for losing his temper. Yep. So we had those two, probably the two greatest in recent Bay Area memory, within a week or two of each other. Wow. It was incredible. Of course, the John Herrera one where he like blows up at me. That's the one. That's not true, Kawakami. Yeah, absolutely. That was all in that era too. It was all right there. It was like, that was a wild. Or a Singletary. We want to play physical with an F. Physical with an F. Yeah. I tell you the one. Like, I've never been to a press conference before with coaches hired or whatever, and I happened to be at the Jim Tomsula press conference, and I'm just sitting there. I didn't ask a question because I that's not what I did, and I'm not going to. So I just sat there and watched. And I don't remember the exact question, but they asked Tomsula about a philosophy and doing certain things this way, doing certain things that way. And Tomsula, obviously, everybody knows, was not great in front of a microphone. I interviewed him after for like 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. He was sweating bullets the whole time. I'm like, Jim, just relax. Yeah. Just radio. Just talk. We're good. Don't worry about it. And I could have swore it's like going to the electric chair. Like, he's just like bullets. Yep.
And they asked about the philosophy, and he was like, "Well, we're gonna," and all of a sudden, Balky, fucking out of nowhere, comes bombing, and he goes, "I think what he's trying to say is we're gonna run the football."
Yep.
I'm like, "Oh, this is fucked."
Yep.
I go, "You guys are so fucked.
Yep.
Like, you can't even let your head coach
he can't
talk for himself. The GM has to jump in and tell everybody what the philosophy was." That was the only thing that stood out about that press conference, was like, "Oh, these guys are screwed.
Yep.
He's screwed. They're screwed. Everybody's screwed."
Yep.
And I knew it from the get-go.
That's the guy that they hired to replace Jim freaking Harbaugh. Like, it'll always blow my mind. Like, you think he's bad, you don't like him, okay, do better than him. And they had Jim. And that's the one that the Yorks wanted the whole time. Like, they fired Harbaugh. They went on a search, but they fired him essentially to have Jim Tomsula be their head coach, that's quite something. That was something, and if you knew them, you knew him, you knew that was not destined to be a good thing.
Oh, look who's back.
Wrapping it up. Wrapping it up.
Well, you know what I think they wanted? Lulu. You know what I think they wanted? Come here, Lou. Is what they have now. They wanted a collaboration, and they didn't have that with Harbaugh.
No.
Harbaugh and Balky. That was not a collaboration at all.
That was.
But I think they see that with the Warriors,
Mm-hmm.
Bob Myers, Steve Kerr, and now Mike Dunleavy, Steve Kerr. And I think they have that now with Lynch and Shanahan. That's what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And Harbaugh wasn't going to give them that. That's just not who he is.
Yep.
And that's fine.
He's doing it now with the Chargers, though.
He's evolved a little bit.
And he's also been able to pick his executive. He didn't know how to pick his executive back then.
And that's the way it's gone now. I think you have to evolve no matter what you're doing. And I think that's the evolution of this. It's not like, this is my team, this is what I do. Now, the question is, and I think baseball kind of is at the forefront of this, when does it cross over from the front office into the managerial spot to where, hey, we can collaborate, but once we're on the, let me do my job. I don't need you telling me exactly what to do. I'll collaborate with you, but I don't need you telling me, here's the reliever you got to put in, here's the matchups we got to have, here's this. It's like a GM in basketball saying, here are the rotations you got to play. Here's what we got to. Here's who I want first off the bench. Here's what I want to do here. And I think that's the fine line we're kind of looking at now, because it used to be pretty cut and dry. Manager, once the game starts, it's your team, you coach the team. GM, you put the team together, I'll coach the team. And now it's like, okay, what are the roles now? And I think that the front offices in sports want to be more involved in game management, but not have the responsibility of it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And dealing with the players, like, that's the biggest.
They don't want to do that either.
Yeah, that is. I'll put. I mean, he's been here. We both know him very well. Kerr's the best at. He's whatever. It's the dealing with the players individually and their strengths and weaknesses, and making sure they know they're being communicated to. That's Bob Melvin's strength, right? It's communication. Yeah. And the front office can't do that. Shouldn't do that. They're not in the dugout. They're not in the game. And a lot of conversations Kerr has, or Melvin, I'm sure, or Shanahan, are pregame, but it's within the context of what's happening in that moment. And I think that's, you got to empower your coaches, your managers to do that. And once they don't feel empowered, and once they feel like the decision is being taken out of their hands, then you can't have those conversations. Not really, because who knows? I mean, and that's kind of what you're sensing, even though Melvin and Zaidi were very close, and Melvin came to the Giants saying, I'm coming here for Farhan. I don't think that's how it turned out last season. I don't think you get in the feel that, like, there's some things that were a little separate from those two, and that Melvin's much more comfortable with Buster as his executive. Now, maybe that'll change too. I don't know. And maybe Melvin will be pissed at me for saying that. It's just my interpretation. Yep. But it is interesting, and I wanted to ask him a little bit about it at Buster's hiring thing, and Bob did not really want to talk about it, which I get. Like, again, you come in. You say it's for Farhan, and I think that was the intent, that they're going to be a team together, and it just didn't work. And I think Bob got frustrated. Now, Bob got frustrated with Billy too. Yeah. So, managers they have strong opinions. Like, they shouldn't be weak little wallflowers. And Bob's not, but I think we're seeing it tilt definitely to the manager side on this. I think that's a good thing. I think Chapman signing was definitely part of it. like, hey, let's get to, this guy's willing to come, like wants to be here. Let's make sure we do everything we can. And that's when Buster steps in, and it was everybody a part of that. You just don't want it to be one or the other. I think that's what we're saying. It gets too tricky at agendas, and who gets the credit, who gets the blame. Like that's, I think Jed learned once and for all that he put Lynch and Shanahan to give him big contracts as first timers, and they tied him together. You like that? You just like that?
There she is.
Yeah, okay.
She goes, "Oh, I'm eating already." She goes, "I'm good to go. Let's go."
Oh, my God.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
She goes, "Let's go."
We're going off
Come
here.
Come over here. Lou doesn't care. Hey, look. She's like, "Oh,
Oh my God.
Lulu, come over here. Come here.
Oh no, that's fake. That's a fake. Head fake.
Look at her. She's like totally happy right now. She's like, "Oh, this is fun." Lulu, come here.
It's gonna be another head fake. You got to double back.
Come here.
Yeah, double back.
You're getting up here. Come here.
God.
All right, but Lou's like, "Are we done here?"
Yeah, I think you're ready to wrap.
The last couple in this, they kind of tie together with the book I'm reading, and I want to know about books you've read because you always ask me that.
Yep.
Oh, look at the bunny's back to create havoc too. I'm reading Earl Weaver's book, but why is it? And we talked about this earlier. You get the Lasorda rants, the Earl Weaver rants, the Elia rants, the Lou Piniella rants. It was so different back in the day. I talk to Steve about this all the time, going, "Man, the stories back then are so much better than the stories today." I go, "You'll never get those days back. It doesn't happen." And I get it. It's corporation versus mom and pop shop. It's like it's a different world out there. But what do you make of that? Like, it was a little vulgar and it was a little off color, and maybe it's the era I grew up in. I liked it. I liked
the unpredictability.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
What like you didn't know.
You get none of that anymore.
Now, I kind of felt that with Jim Irsay dying. Now, I did not know him, but he was the unpredictable NFL owner. Like they're so corporate. They're so like like they think they're statesmen or something, and they're not. But they hold themselves up as again, they're running billion-dollar corporations. I get it, but that he was this unique, unpredictable, weird guy who just had a lot of passion, and he's the last of that generation. You could really feel it. I just think it's the corporation. It's like everything is what's the brand, what's this Patrick Dumont, the guy just basically owning the Mavericks now.
Oh,
he's the son-in-law, whatever, but he's like a nothing. He's just a nothing because they're just trying to the brand. They're trying to push the brand forward. Now, Lacob's not the most predictable dude in the whole world.
You're right.
And he's a little, I appreciate that. He's off the cuff. But I just think it's just, there's too many stakeholders. There's too much, TV contracts. It just gets to be where the unpredictable and the improvised and the over passionate is just kind of, there isn't a reward for it. Now, I don't know if there was a reward for it that much in the past, but maybe, or we've got some commercials, whatever, but I just don't think that the uniqueness is, you kind of want, the blandness almost wins. Like, Mark Daniel, whatever is Daniel, whatever, he's a really good coach, but I think he loves that he's almost, unknown in the, in the world. Walk down the streets and people don't know you. I've said that about the Sharks a lot of times. Like you attract players who don't want to be that famous. Well, is that great? Or do you want the pressure of it all? I mean, it's kind of a little pet theory of mine. I don't know. The cookie cutter is not great. And I think we're seeing more and more just as the money rises, as the risks become greater. Like you could lose something if you are, the whole Michael Jordan thing, Republicans buy shoes too. Like, in some ways that's been followed in a lot of ways. And the caution and, there's still going to be off the cuff guys. There's still going to be weird dudes, but it's really toned down. And and they're not around the public as much. They're not around the media as much. And it used to be way more. And it's really kind of cordoned off. And I think we lose the color, we lose the personality, but there's reasons for that.
Well, I think the one instance where it really kind of hit me, and you talk about like we're brands now. This is how we're going to act. This is what we're going to do. was when Daryl Morey came out in support of
Yeah.
Taiwan.
Yep.
And people are like, well, wait a minute, you can't do that. And it's like, well, why not? He's right. But China was the one that was giving all the money to the NBA. And the coaches, even the coaches that spoke out were like, yeah, I'm not going to touch that. I'm going to move on. It wasn't like everybody was speaking like from their heart or speaking what they believed. It was like, look, we're a business here. We're trying to keep this thing on the tracks. And they had to go into hibernation for a couple of years, and then boom, back on track with China, and they're all good to go. And I found that kind of interesting that, like, okay, I mean, I knew it, but that's not completely on topic, but it is on topic in that this whole thing is like a train, and every team's on board with the train. The coaches are on board with it. The GMs are on board with it. Don't do anything to upset the train. Don't go, like Lee Elia calling your fan base cocksuckers. Like that's probably not. That's not going to be great for the train. And on that, in that vein, Earl Weaver was a guy that wasn't afraid to give
Orioles. That's why the Orioles hat's out. Maybe.
Well, I got this. Unfortunately, we had Brandon Hyde on a couple months ago. He's from Santa Rosa. The then manager of the Baltimore Orioles.
Nice jinx there.
So I know I crushed him. He's like fired like a month after I talked to him. But I've always enjoyed the Orioles hats, and Eddie Murray was one of my favorite players growing up. So I was a big fan of his. So he sent me some stuff. So I got a few. I got my last place teams all in there. I got the Angels in there. Oh, they think they're ahead of the A's. Right now.
They had a little winning streak. Yeah,
well, not so much anymore. Okay. I think they've lost 4 in a row now. They lost 2 to the Marlins and 2 to the Yankees. So it was fun while it lasted. Yeah. They had a 7-game winning streak, so that was great. I'm looking for small positives when it comes to Angels fandom.
They can just get a guy who pitches and hits.
It'd be incredible.
Really, really.
Or like a guy that could have like 9 WAR, 7 years in a row. Exactly. Like I like
and
that.
And then put them together, and then
2 Hall of Famers. Oh my God, wouldn't that be amazing?
Dare to dream.
How about a pitching staff that is an ERA under 5? That'd be fantastic. Impossible. That'd be fantastic as well. But I love reading the Earl Weaver book just because it like takes me back to my era of growing up and watching baseball and how everything's so different. Although he gets praised for being kind of analytical before analytics were actually in vogue.
Yeah, no bunts.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but with an old school style. Tell me about. And there's another book I want to ask you about. I don't know if you read it, and I want to recommend it to you. But what's the last book you read, and what's a book that you would recommend to people? This is a good read.
I've been reading a lot of Michael Connelly. I think I've said this to you probably before. I just love.
My mom loves him.
Yeah, it's the fiction. It's the L.A. cop noir.
Yeah.
But now, Hieronymus Bosch, Harry Bosch is.
I love older. Bosch. Yeah, do you watch Bosch?
I have watched it. I kind of like.
Well, you read the book.
Yeah, I know. So
I said this yesterday, a couple of days ago, during the show. Once you read the books, that's your story in your head.
It doesn't quite fit. It doesn't.
Because my mom doesn't like Reacher.
Yep.
She loved Reacher the books. I'm like, oh, watch Reacher. She goes, Tom Cruise too small.
The movie, the TV shows actually, the Amazon TV shows.
I like the TV show, and I asked her about it. She goes, no, he's better in the books. I'm like, all right, forget it.
The first season I really liked. The second I stopped. It was stupid.
Yeah.
But I love the Reacher books too. But the Connelly, Bosch is aging now.
Yeah.
So it's a little sad, it's a little more depressing, but it's still quality stuff.
Yep.
Connelly's still keeping it up. The quality is very high.
Uh-huh.
I hate to praise Mike Silver, but his book,
I read that.
That was really good.
Very good book.
On the Shanahan, the McVeigh, all that. Just the details. I was like, man, where did he get all this stuff?
I know.
It was really I don't love sports books. I don't read them because I've kind of lived it.
Yeah.
And I see mistakes and I kind of I wince. But that book really, it was almost like 50 great Sports Illustrated features. So, and I kind of like that. And Mike's a really good writer, a good friend of mine. So, of the recent books that I would recommend, did you recommend A Gentleman in Moscow? Or Fleming might have.
That was probably Fleming. That sounds like a Fleming
really book. Good book. Like really textured, kind of evenly paced.
What's it about?
It's about kind of a cast out royal aristocrat as Russia has just gone communism. So, but he's kind of isolated in this grand hotel because they've taken away everything else. And he's kind of, as he's kind of adjusts to life in this hotel, and it kind of adopts this kind of young wild girl, and they kind of maneuver through this old hotel, and then all these speeches that the communists are making in this hotel, but also have to kind of like lie to kind of preserve yourself in this kind of society. And he's charming, and he's the staff, and it's just kind of, it's very even paced. I recommend it a lot, like people in book clubs and that kind of thing. I've heard that the Amazon show is really good, but I tried to get it and it was like cost me money. I got Amazon and I got to pay for a series. Pay for it now. Something might have gone wrong there
at some point.
But I've heard it's really good.
Okay.
And the book itself, those books, like you read it, you didn't think it was the greatest book, but then you think about it all the time. I think about this book all the time. I don't really know why.
Okay.
It just has a texture to it.
Gentleman in Moscow.
Gentleman from Moscow or something like that.
Okay.
It doesn't have all the crazy Tolberts. That book you recommended to me still like turns my stomach
Book
when I think of, oh my God. that one.
When you're reading it like this.
It's like, what?
Like, I know. This way.
Am I ever going to get out of this? Like, I've told you this.
You're trapped in the book.
I felt like I'm in the book. Like, am I getting out of here? Like the steps are disappearing.
It was a wild book.
Whoa. I'm going, thanks, Tommy. Like, thanks, man. Like, I don't know what this is.
Hey, trust me, I was reading it going, oh, God.
Like, you did not tell me that when you recommended it.
No, of course I didn't, because I figured you wouldn't read it. I go, I got to get somebody to read this book. This is crazy. I can't be the only one to read it.
It gave me, like, not like chills, like frightened chills, but more like chill, right? You're like, whoa, this is really getting weird here.
It's very weird.
I read this long ago, so this is not a new book, but a book that made me feel the same. With Dean Koontz, you read Dean Koontz at all?
Yeah.
Hideaway.
I haven't read that one.
It is just this. I don't know. I think it was the first Koontz book I read, so I wasn't really aware of the way the plot could twist. And
yeah, he's good.
And that was one of them. I literally went, wow! There was one moment I cannot remember feeling that way about a book ever. Like, you love books, whatever. This one, I was like, I can't believe he just did that. And that Hideaway, that was like, if you want that, I mean, it's much more of a frightening kind of thing. But man, that one got me.
So I recommended Sapiens to you.
Yes, you did.
Many years ago.
Yep.
And I just read the follow-up called Nexus.
Okay. I think I've heard, people getting recommended, getting reviewed.
It's about the information age and what people acquire information for, what purposes for. And he lays out the theory that is information to garner knowledge, truth, or is it for control?
Mm.
And he laid out like for Russia back in the day, they wanted information for control.
Yep.
Other people wanted it for other things. And I just found it really, really interesting. And then he blended it with AI and how that's all going to work, and computer to computer, like where we don't need humans now to communicate. Computers can communicate with computers. And like, it was a little more textbooky, I thought, than Sapiens. Like, it didn't flow quite as much. I had to like grind my way through certain portions, but when I got done, I was like, God, I need to read that again, because there was so much information in there, and it really made me think about, like, because I've always kidded people, like, AI, here comes Skynet, we're toast, it's done, computers are taking over.
Tom Cruise will save us.
Yep, but yeah, let's hope so. Now, do I think it's going to get to that point? Probably not, but who knows? We're going to be in 50 years. Because 50 years ago, no one would believe we'd have an internet. And we have all that. We have cell phones. So who knows what it's going to be? So Nexus is like a really, really good one. I can't read two of those back to back. I don't want to think that much.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to just enjoy a book.
Yep.
Right? Just enjoy it. But that one was one. I think if you enjoyed Sapiens, you'll enjoy this one.
I've heard people like, he blew your mind with Sapiens. He'll blow your mind with this one even more. It's like, okay, let's ready to go. Yeah, I don't love those as much, but I can work those in.
Yeah,
I do. I just like thrillers. I like fiction.
Yeah.
I like I just like to go away for a while in my mind.
Yeah.
But and not work through stuff. But at times I'll work this stuff in.
Yeah.
But I love Sapiens. Like, that one really made you like,
that's good.
It was just so logical.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, okay, that's how this would have happened. I hadn't really put it all together like that in my head, but exactly the step I didn't. The second one I didn't love as much.
Okay.
What was that?
Nexus.
Yeah. No. There was another one after Sapiens, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Sapiens do.
Okay.
I didn't love that as much
I didn't
either.
like it. Just kind of was more diffuse to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah.
This one's better than that one.
Okay.
This one's
I like the topics.
This one's
sure.
better than that one. Have you seen the Turning Point shows on Netflix?
Oh, you told me about that one, the Cold War.
They just came up with a new one, the Vietnam Turning Point, and it's not as in depth as the Cold War, the bomb in the Cold War, but there's like things I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this is like, I just feel like I'm watching something. I love watching something that I felt like I knew, and then as I'm watching, I'm like, well, shit, I didn't know that.
The Cold War one, I could not believe all the stuff I didn't.
It's
have no idea.
Incredible.
And there's the relationships.
I've watched it twice in 2 months.
Yeah. The depth of that one, and I told you I didn't want to watch it. I wasn't ready for the 9/11 one.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
On a completely different thing, I'm watching the Pee Wee Herman documentary on Netflix. It's on Max. Really interesting.
Did that have one of those things where it's like had the 9/11 and goes, if you like 9/11, you like Pee Wee Herman?
Oh God, Jesus Christ!
Wow. If you like this, you'll probably like this.
I was wondering where you're going to go with that one.
I will.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah, very, very similar.
I had no idea.
I said period. Different thing. Pee Wee Herman documentary. It's real. I didn't know all the stuff about him.
Paul Rubens, right?
Paul Rubens. Just kind of I was in college during all that stuff, so kind of the way he moved up. I just remember my friends who liked alternative music loved him. Like, why was that? Why was he part of the punk thing and post punk? And just that. It was interesting, the art house nature. I went to school with a lot of guys, not his talent as him, but like him. So it really and he's about the same age as we are, maybe a little older. Obviously passed away, but I liked it more than I thought I was going to. Put it that way.
All right, meal. Favorite meal in the Bay Area.
Favorite meal, Leo's the lobster roll, really good.
Where is Leo's?
Leo's is Financial District. I forget exactly where. And let's see here. I love Burma Love. The Burmese foods Financial District. Kaya at Thrive Center is a sister restaurant. Okay. So Kaya, the soup, mohingo soup. Oh, I'm like addicted to. I just invited somebody. Come on, we got to have some of this. It's right by me, so I hate saying where I live, but that one, Marlowe. It's south of Mission.
Patrick?
Not Patrick Marlowe. Marlowe, the restaurant. Marlow. It's on 3rd. Great chicken sandwich. Okay. So I'd say those three. Always like House of Prime Rib, but that's kind of cliche. Yeah. Always love I love the.
But just because it's cliche.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. The only problem is I get reservations there and they don't seat me until 45 minutes after the reservation. Like, unbelievable. I love it. It's so busy
what are you,
there.
A doctor's office?
I know, it's so busy there.
I'm here at 11. Yeah. Yeah, the doctor's got some dude. He's got a toenail that's going the wrong way, and okay, let's go.
That's why you make an appointment.
Be more efficient.
Make
all right, you're killing me here.
And I always say I love the takeout dim sum on Richmond District on Clement, like 5th, 6th, 7th Avenue. Love it. You get this pure great dim sum. You can take it out, bring it home. I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's one thing that everybody seems to like. I just.
Oh, it's
dim sum hasn't. It never hit me.
Well, never. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't.
You're an Indian food guy.
Yeah. I mean, Indian lunch buffet.
Yeah, you know what I found? This place called Curry Up Now.
Okay.
They have a chicken tikka masala burrito.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah. I'm like, so wait a minute. I get rice. I get the chicken tikka masala. I get and you wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
I go, let's give that a shot. And I got it. That's a once. I wouldn't say once a week, but at least once every 2 weeks. It just I'm a big spice guy.
Yeah, that would be spice. Yeah.
I'm a big spice guy. I like to sweat when I eat. I feel like I'm losing calories as I'm gaining.
You should
calories.
eat Indian food. Our friend John Wilner. We used to go.
Oh, John likes Indian food.
Oh my God!
Oh really?
I could just get the sauce and dip the bread in it. That's all I can eat. That's all I want.
I'm with him. Get the naan bread.
Yeah, I just want the naan and the sauce. That's all I want. That's all I want. Get me more naan. Where's more naan? We had a friend. We'd eat in Palo Alto. There's a great Indian food. I forget the name of the restaurant even now, but we'd go there like every other month, and we'd go there, and he just get me that naan. I need more. I need more.
I need more non. I need more non.
Oh my God! I didn't realize I was going to do a John Wilner imitation to close this. He's my guy, as you know. He's my guy. So.
Oh my God! All right, last thing. Then we're done. Only because you brought it up. I wasn't even going to ask you this, and then you brought it up. Where you at with college football right now?
I'm sad because I love it so much.
So do I.
The Bay Area. Cal and Stanford got bad at exactly the wrong time.
Yeah.
Like if they were good, I don't. Maybe SC still wants to go to the Big Ten, but I think the appeal would be less.
Yeah.
They ditched in part because their only good games were against Oregon and Washington. If they still had this real rivalry, if Stanford was like it was, if Cal was like it was, I think the Pac-12 still exists, and I love Pac-12 football. You know, I went to Northwestern, so I love Big Ten football, and that's sustained. But I am sad. You know, it's one less thing I have to cover, which is sad. I love covering those Tedford teams. I obviously love covering the Luck and Harbaugh teams. And now they're just not, I mean, I would never cover that. I'm sorry. I just won't. I don't ACC. I'd love when SC came to town. I just love all that stuff, and it's gone. So that's sad. And I love college basketball, and that's kind of gone too in the Bay Area. St. Mary's, obviously, but we'll see what Gonzaga and this new Pac-12, whatever that's going to be. But that's my favorite sport to watch, I would say, because I haven't covered it, so I can watch these games and not have the pressure of, oh, what does it mean? But I just love big college football games, love it, and it's sad that it's gone away in the Bay Area. And I really do think there was a causality between Cal and Stanford sucking at the same time, and SC decided, you know what, this is not sustainable. For us. Because the Pac-12 wasn't sustainable, mostly because there were only two other good teams in their minds. Yeah. And of course, UCLA had to tag along, and it's kind of screwing up UCLA. But
it hurt me. I mean, it was like it felt personal for me because I grew up in 20 minutes south of LA, so I grew up watching UCLA, USC. Grew up watching the Pac. I think it was 10 at the time. I think it moved on since Pac-8. So I watched it. Watched the Rose Bowls. Watched the, Oregon State, Washington State, USC, UCLA, the Territorial Cup, Arizona, all those. I watched all those. So I was a West Coast guy, grew up, played for the Pac-10 at the time for Arizona, and then moved here, did the radio show so I still followed the Pac. And then they just blew it up. It was gone. It's been around forever and just blew it up. For money, because USC decided they wanted to go, and then USC decided they wanted to go, so UCLA followed along, and then Oregon and Washington felt like, well, there's not enough of a Pac-12. We're not going to do the Apple model. I mean, let me just say this right to the camera: Larry Scott, fucking bang up job. You
really
just did a really
did
well.
I made a lot of money for being awful. Just like I covered Pac-10 basketball, Pac-10, whatever it was, 12 maybe by that point, no 10. In your era, so like those UCLA Arizona games were amazing,
awesome games.
UCLA Oregon games, Arizona, like these were like you would wait to see these games. And now whatever UCLA plays, I don't care. Like,
me neither.
It's UCLA like the big selling point. Oh, there's big marquee games. I don't care when they're playing Indiana. I don't care, and I think football's been the same way, but. Having covered the UCLA National Championship season 95, and also when Arizona won National Championship 97, those were momentous games. You know, Bibby versus whatever. Like you just had this kind of area of great teams, and Washington State was still pretty good, and Oregon was always pretty good. Cal had some players. Like Cal was one of UCLA's only losses in the national championship season. That was the Bozeman and those. I can't even remember those good players. The Tremaine Folks and all that. I miss that, but I really felt we don't have to get into all this, but like there's been a really shrinking of the Bay Area sports landscape because it got. And I mean, when the Sharks were in the playoffs, they were big enough to talk about. Maybe not KMBR, but big enough to talk about.
I tried. Ralph tried. Go Sharks.
I know.
Are you kidding me?
But you had Cal basketball, you had Cal football, you had Stanford basketball, Stanford football. Stanford basketball is going well. Stanford football. You had the A's, you had the Raiders. That's 7 teams that I used to write about that I do not write about anymore. And that's depressing, but also, okay, well, just give me more time. I read the Giants, 49ers, and Warriors. Like that's really what it's narrowed down to. Now, Valkyries might bump into this. We'll see with the Earthquakes. We'll see with Bay FC, but they're not what those teams used to be. So I'm a little sad about it, but evolution. It's kind of the way it goes. And I know, and I could plain write about the 49ers, Warriors, and Giants. I still can write about those teams.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait till. I mean, I'll talk about the Sharks a little bit, and it'll be fun to talk about them when they're relevant again. But that's one of the things I enjoy about doing this. If I want to talk about the Panthers and the Canes, I can do that. When I talk about the Oilers and the Stars, I can do that. Like, I'm watching the games, and I know nobody else cares, but it interests me. Like in the Sharks, they don't interest me right now because they're not that good.
But they
got Celebrini, they got Smith, they got some guys, some young players that are pretty good, and they were interesting for about 20 years. And that's the one thing I hated about radio was, well, no one cares, so don't talk about it. I'm like, is that, what are we, an infomercial? Or like, we're supposed to just talk about, I go, how about getting people?
There you go.
I go, I don't want to be an infomercial for the Sharks, but if I'm interested in it, why wouldn't I talk about it? And if I can make it interesting enough, then people will come along for the ride and maybe learn a little something or just enjoy the conversation for 10 minutes. I'm not asking you for an hour on Sharks, just 15 minutes to have Drew on or Randy on or whoever, just talk a little Sharks hockey. And that's the thing I hate about what it's become, what it became at KMBR was, all right, Warriors, Niners, Giants, Warriors, Niners, Giants, Warriors, Niners, Giants. And I said, well, I got to talk about it in the 5 o'clock hour. I already said this in the 3 o'clock hour. Why don't you just replay what I said in the 3 o'clock hour?
And I'll go home.
And I can go home. I don't got to worry about it. But I've always felt like, to me, it's about, like what you do, it's entertaining. And Ralph and I talked about this early on. Like, we're not in the sports talk business. We're in the entertainment business. We got to entertain people. We got to keep people engaged and make them feel like, hey, we're part of this, and this is fun to talk about. And talking about something 4 times a day, trying to find a different way to talk about it, it wasn't that fun for me, I got to be honest.
No, and it's not that interesting. And I don't know that people, like, they're not going to listen to that over and over again, probably. But we'll see. I mean, you could, listen, you're talented enough, you can come up with ways. And, we all do our own little bits of it. But it's the simplifying of it. Like, just say the same. Just, you got to yell about the quarterback 3 times. It's like, no, listen. Exactly. And I don't want to rip other people, but I do hear that. Like, the rare times I listen to talk radio, it's the same thing over and over again. It's like, this is dumb. And I do believe the smart stuff breaks through that stuff. And again, I'll wrap it up with the thing that like the Athletic and certainly the Standard is, I felt rewarded for doing the thing that I do. And thank God for that, because I would not would want to be in the position where the thing that I do, I don't think is being rewarded. So
thank you, Tim.
Tommy, thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Good to be.
I mean, I've probably kept you past your bedtime.
It's a little late, but that's all good. It's all good. And that's a good conversation.
No, it's fun. Like I just, and this is kind of what I hope this would be. Like, people that I enjoy being around, people that I enjoy talking to. And Kerr. Yeah, I don't enjoy him that much, got to be honest with you. People that I've had a relationship with, just sitting around talking, just talking. Who knows where it's going to end up being? But I do appreciate you coming out and giving me some of your time, and hopefully get a chance to do it again some other time.
Absolutely, Tommy. Absolutely.
And I'll be on.
You're coming on my show. We'll set up a time.
You got it. Absolutely. And I told you, I'm always good. All I got to do is call and text or whatever, and I'm always good for your show.
Give me some weird reading. Weird book. Real weird Tommy books.
Okay. You know what?
It's a challenge.
You know what sucks is now I got to find that book, and then I got to read that book.
And you got to go, oh, God.
I don't know if I can find another book of leaves, though.
Did this make me queasy enough to tell Kawakami about it?
Book of leaves. So I got to type into Google weird books.
I've recommended. I didn't ever recommend it. I've told them about it, and they go, I started. It was too weird. I go, yeah, I know the feeling.
I got that book, and it was during COVID, and I ordered a bunch of books. And I go, this one, because I go horror books. I go, I want a very good horror book. So I got this one. I go, this wasn't quite the description, not quite horror, but it's there's despair and there's this. I was like, I go, it sounds kind of weird. I go, I'm gonna get it, and then I got it, and I read it, and I'm not kidding you. I'm reading it. There are certain pages that are like 2 lines,
Yep.
and you got to turn it
Yeah,
this way to
course.
read, and then that way to read,
and then jump
and then
jump to forward, then jump back,
and then it's like a staircase. You're reading like a staircase, and I was like, so I got done with the book, and I liked it. I did like it. Did I love it? I liked it. So I was like, man, I go, there's no fucking way I'm going to read this book and not make somebody else read it. Who can I make read this book? So I go, Tim Kawakami. I'll make him read it. I'll give him a recommendation on this book. He'll read it. He'll be like, holy shit, what did you just do to me?
You do? And I fought through it. Oh God.
It's definitely a fight through a book.
It is a fight, but it's good enough that you do want to
do.
You also like, how are they going to finish this? Like, I have no idea where this is going to end. I don't know what just happened on this page, and it's got 30 more pages.
How about the page though, where it's condensed? Yeah. It was like 50 lines, and you're like reading it. Like, at some point, take me an hour to get through this page.
I just did some of this. Yeah, like it was like I'm just taking it like it's an index in the middle of the book. But cheater. I kept going.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, Tommy.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Max. Appreciate it as always. Brownie's around here somewhere. Lou decided to go, so we're all good. Kitties might show up one of these days, but we will see you probably Friday for the next show. We'll figure out what we have going for you. I think next week JT Snow is going to join us, and we'll have other guests for you as well. Until then, thanks for joining. Out.